Welcome back to the Tier 1 podcast. I am your host, Brent Tucker, owner of FRCC. That's First Responders Coffee, Cigar, and Cask Company. We do just that, coffee, cigars, and bourbon, and we do it better than anyone else. Go to frcc.shop and use promo code Tier1 to get 15% off your order.
And I'm Drew Tucker, Operator Manager at FRCC.shop. Thanks for joining us. Please, I invite you to join our Patreon. It is brought to you by Cobalt Kinetics. We have behind-the-scenes footage, exclusive content. There's a fitness forum and a gun forum. And within that gun forum, there's a gun expert from Cobalt Kinetics ready to answer all of your weapon questions. So join our Patreon today.
And as always, this episode is brought to you by Human Performance TRT. Go to hp-trt.com and use the promo code Tier1 to get 20% off your order. Don't wait any longer to get in the best shape of your life. Get your blood work done. See what you need. We offer testosterone and peptides. So please go to hp-trt.com. Let's do it, Drew.
Or new Special Forces ready.
Welcome to the Tier 1 podcast.
This is amazing, dude. Check this out, right?
I'm very excited about today's guest. Alex West served 20 years in the Naval Special Warfare, half of that or some of that on the white side, and the majority of that over on the Tier 1 side. He was also part of arguably the greatest high-value target raid of all time. We'll get into that. He's also the founder of One More Wave, a nonprofit organization for veterans. And he's a practicing mental health therapist in Nashville, Tennessee. Mm-hmm. Welcome to the show, Alex.
Thank you for having me, Brent.
Absolutely. Before we get into it, Tasty Gains has some gifts for you.
Oh, right on. Thank you.
And there's more where that came from.
Right.
I'm a big fan of creatine, both for the recovery, but really the mental focus aspect that's really been, I would say, almost discovered here of recent. So I make sure to get that every day.
Appreciate
and
it.
Cloud Defensive
wants
to give you this.
Thank you.
Every man should have a tack lighter 10.
I agree. Thank you. I definitely could use this.
Know something about a tack light?
Yeah, absolutely.
Had a few over your career.
Hey, you can always use an extra.
No
Thank
kidding.
you.
Absolutely. All right. You know, we used to start with kind of childhood and up, and recently I've just kind of started the story with why'd you join, and skip that part. Not that part isn't important, but sometimes let's just get to the good stuff.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go back to the old questions for you because you do have an interesting childhood and path before you got to the military.
Sure.
Let's start there.
Yeah. I was born to American parents in Ladybrand, South Africa, and we lived in Lesotho, which is the only country in the world completely surrounded by another country, and it's an African mountain kingdom. My parents, my dad was working for the World Water Project, trying to bring water to 1 billion impoverished people, and my mom was a school teacher. And so we lived in Lesotho and then in Cairo, Egypt, and then moved to the States, to Kansas City, of all places. Right? Talk about being a little weird kid when you're asked to stand up and introduce where you're from.
Yeah. How old were you when you moved?
10.
10. So you remember it. I do. You got a good foundation of growing up in South Africa.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy. You and Elon Musk have a lot in common.
Except for our bank accounts, but yeah, whatever.
Your dad was a veteran as well.
He was.
Correct?
Yeah, he was actually a TAC-P in Vietnam in the 1st to 7th Air Cav. and was and also an advisor. And but he would get out and afterwards met my mom when he was on the GI Bill in college, and then that's when after that they went overseas.
Did he ever tell you any stories when you were a kid about
He
Vietnam?
did.
Did he?
Oh yeah, and it was interesting, hearing him talk about. It was always kind of around in our home a little bit between he and I. And I think that was a big influence on me. It just kind of, as a young boy looking up to your dad and actually him being proud of his service.
Yeah.
And
I love that.
Yeah. And he would take us to air shows. We were kind of talking about that last night. My dad did the same thing, take us to air shows and things like that. He didn't push it, but he was supportive.
With that, well, actually, but before we get there, there is a story I want to cover. It's a little bit, shows either I was going to say adventurous side, but there's a part, maybe a rebel's idea about climbing the pyramids.
Oh, yeah.
You weren't done with Africa just because you left at 10.
No.
You had kept going back.
I did. And it's interesting when I think back on it, the older I get, why was I doing that? But I feel like I think it was an adventure streak. I still had friends and kept in contact with friends in Egypt. And I had, like any kid, had jobs. I worked at a pizza shop in the mall or, mowed lawns, whatever. And I would save up. And I went back to Cairo, sophomore in high school. And then after I graduated high school, before I joined the Navy, I flew back to Cairo to visit friends.
When you went back there, you guys had an idea to get close and personal with a pyramid.
We sure did. So we decided we were not going to fuck around. We're going to climb one, and we bribed our way up to the guards there, and it was at night, almost at a full moon, which kind of was an incredible experience.
Yeah.
And the way we did it, at least, was you climb up the apex, or kind of like the edge of it, and it was so dangerous looking back on it because each step or each stone is about 4 feet taller. So you're almost doing like a muscle up to each one. And it's, if I remember, we climbed Cheops, which is about 440 feet. You might want to double check me on that, but I think it's right around there.
Yeah.
And I remember halfway up as we were going up, it's made of limestone. So it was crumbling and coming down. And we were just teenagers in like running shoes. No, there was nothing else. You're just like idiots, right? And so I remember like rocks falling down and just thinking like, this is ridiculous and dangerous. But I will say this, when we finally got to the top and you could see Cairo, one of the largest cities in the world, and then you'd see the Sahara Desert and then this like full moon and the Nile right there. It's pretty epic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You told me that story and we, because I haven't been to Egypt.
Okay,
and my first thought was one of the big ones, like one of the big three.
Oh yeah.
And you're like, there's a bunch of pyramids. In Egypt. So I had to look it up. There's over 100 pyramids in Egypt.
Yeah.
I'm sure ranging from various sizes.
Right.
But that is cool that you did that, because every time I see a picture one, there is a part of me that's like, I'd love to climb that.
Yeah. If I may, just maybe grab a helmet, maybe do a risk assessment.
You were 18 at the time. There's going to be someone in the comment section like, how dare you? You're destroying historical.
No disrespect.
Right. I've done dumb things at 18 as well. But I do love that story because the audaciousness of it. Like, we're just going to bribe this guard, and we're going to get up there, and we'll make it.
Of course we'll make it.
I love it. So there's a beginning of an adventurous side to you. When you went and you joined, then my question is why the Navy and not the Air Force, with that being in your family background?
Sure, that's a great question. I actually originally was thinking about the Marine Corps.
Okay.
And I remember I went into the recruiter office. It was in a strip mall in Kansas City. You had all the branches, and went to the Marine Corps recruiter first, but he was so overbearing, and all I wanted was a pamphlet and just, and he would not like leave me alone. And so I remember then I walked down to the Army recruiters, and I think they were like at lunch, just nobody was in the office. Same with the Air Force.
Okay.
I can't remember the time of day, but I went to the Navy recruiter, and I was just so worn out from this Marine recruiter.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I need to just get a pamphlet. That's what I came down here for. And I walked in, and these guys were just like, "What's up, bro?" And I'm like, "What's up?" And they're like, "You need anything?" And they were just chill,
What a perfect snapshot of the four branches.
Totally the juxtaposition from the Marine Corps to the Navy, right? And I'm just like kind of like waiting.
Army's not even there.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Navy's like sort of there. Yeah. And so I was just like, I just want like a pamphlet. They're like, yeah, what kind for what program? And I was like, I want to be a SEAL. And they kind of chuckled. They're like, of course you do. Right. And they're like, but yeah, you want a pamphlet? Cool, here you go. They gave me like a VHS tape, I believe, on just the pipeline. And then I remember thinking like, okay, can I just leave? And they're like, yeah, man, you said you just wanted that, like leave if you want. And I was like, okay. And that like clicked for me. But I will say this, because I have to come out and just be honest. What got me thinking about the SEAL teams when I want to say it was like 1990 or so when the movie Navy SEALs came out with Charlie Sheen.
Right.
And yeah, and I remember just thinking like, man, those guys, I was young. Yeah. And just I was really heavily influenced by that. And I believe a lot of guys from my generation kind of were.
Absolutely. We're practically the same age.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's exactly how I viewed that movie too.
Really?
It was just an epic movie. I mean, it'd be hard to get the data from it, but it would be unbelievable, I think, to see how many people either join the SEALs or join the Navy or join the military in general because of that movie.
Yeah.
And it's because of that. I know it's always easy to make jokes or like lighthearted jabs at whether it be books or movies.
Sure.
I'm actually a big fan of it.
Yeah.
I am. It goes all the way back to John Wayne and the Green Berets. Oh, yeah. My dad's generation, they grew up wanting to be Green Berets because of John Wayne and the Green Berets. Then our generation grew up wanting to be Navy SEALs because of the movie Navy SEALs. So I think it's really important. And I don't know if we have that level of movie right now that makes young men want to go do something for their country. I think it's important. And you call it movies. I used movies earlier, but like you, I read books. One of my first, if not my first book, was also yours. Which one was it?
Was it Rogue Warrior?
Rogue Warrior.
Yeah.
That was my
Dick Marcinko.
Yeah. I mean, those books influenced me, still to join special operations. So I think they're important.
I agree.
I think stories should be told.
Absolutely.
There's a way that can be told, but they should be told.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah. And I know they have done military movies again here of recent, but just none of them, maybe it's yet to be seen, but none of them have just reached the level of Apocalypse Now.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Platoon.
Yeah. Oh,
again, like Navy SEALs.
Classics.
Just some of those massive hits, but I don't know. Maybe with time, it may change. But anyway,
I hope so. I bet it will.
Yeah, I hope so too. But I'm a big fan of that, and I love that is something that it's one of your reasons that you joined.
I had to come clean with it. Navy SEALs, Charlie Sheen.
And by the way, I rarely change these things. I change these lights to blue just for you.
I appreciate that.
That's a little tip of the hat.
No, I appreciate
you.
that. That's cool.
You should keep them white and can't offend anyone.
Yeah.
There's a joke there.
No, it's all right.
Dang it.
Gotcha. A little slow on that one.
When you told your dad that you're, did he know beforehand that you're going to join the SEALs, or that was your intention?
He did. Yeah. My parents, I actually joined at 17. So my parents had to help sign, and I remember my dad even being like, are you sure you don't want to just wait until you're 18? Like, does it have to be now?
Yeah.
And I was just so excited. I just wanted to get out of town, and that was pre 9/11, the whole join the Navy, see the world. I wasn't ready for college or a job. it was exciting. And my first cousin, Pete, who we're almost like brothers, he was already a SEAL. And actually, let me take that back. I went to junior in high school, which was Bud's graduation.
Really?
And yeah, when I went to that, I was trying to figure out, I thought I wanted to maybe join the Navy, but I wasn't sure. I was thinking about maybe trying to play junior college baseball. And I went to that Bud's graduation, and I saw so many guys, just the camaraderie and the stories and how they clicked. And it's so ironic. So many of those guys I would end up later being in teams with or on deployments with, which is ironic. But that was also one of the biggest influences, was just seeing my cousin, who I looked up to, going through Buds and just being like, that's what I'm going to do, or at least give it a shot.
That is awesome. Yeah. And it's a small community, so you got to see those guys later, which is crazy.
It's crazy.
It's crazy for you, but it's gotta be crazy for them too, because this was just a kid who wasn't even in the Navy yet.
It's like
and he's
16 or something. Us. Yeah, right. It's a little nerd running around.
I don't tell this story often, but the one thing that influenced me to really become a Green Beret, I had wanted to. I was just I was still an air defender, but I was going to go to. I don't have a selection date yet, but I told myself I'm going to selection.
Yeah,
and I was the type of person, I don't tell a lot of people what I'm going to do. I just go do it.
Yeah,
I'm at this wedding for a family friend, and there's this guy there. He's got to be in his 60s, late 60s, maybe early 70s, and he's in his dress greens, and he's a Green Beret. And he's a full bird colonel, retired, but that's what he wore to the wedding. And I couldn't help it. I was like, man, that's a Green Beret.
Yeah.
And I've never actually seen one. So I run up this guy in the parking lot before he leaves, and I say, hey, I'm in the Army, and I'm going to go to selection to be a Green Beret. I don't know what I was expecting.
Sure.
But he looks down at me and he goes, huh. Good luck. And he gets in his car and leaves.
You're like, thank you.
but in a weird way, like that's what motivated. I wanted to work with rough men. And this guy is, retired and he's still a rough, gritty man.
Yes.
And it didn't deter me by any means.
Yeah.
In fact, I was like, all right.
Noted.
That's the type of man I want to be.
I can relate to that.
Yeah. I loved it. So when he didn't try to talk you out of it.
No,
he wanted to delay it, but he didn't mind you being a SEAL.
No, he didn't, and he was really proud. And I remember him, talking, because he had mentioned how he'd crossed paths with some SEALs in Vietnam and some SF guys also. And he was just always spoke highly of special operations, even though he wasn't in special operations. But he didn't try to talk me out of it, just to try to hey, let's just wait till you graduate. And I think secretly he probably was hoping that maybe I would hang around for a couple of years, at least. Now that I think about it, try college or something which makes sense. I would probably tell that to a son if I had a son. Just hey, man, it's the SEAL teams are not going anywhere.
Right.
You know what I mean? Grow up a little bit, make some mistakes, whatever. But he was supportive.
Yeah. When what was your rate, or what's the term? We talked about it earlier.
We did, yes. So I was a radioman in the Navy. So you go to boot camp, and then from there, for any of the listeners that don't know, a rate is like an MOS in the Army.
Right.
And so you had to have, in those days, a job, which was recommended you had a job before you went to Buds, because likely you weren't going to make it, and the Navy wanted to have you. Well,
it's just numbers. Right.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, in the Navy, it's all right, you don't make it, you're going to be like chipping paint on a ship or something. If you don't have a job, they'll find a job for you, but it's not going to be anything too exciting. So I went to a radioman A school in Great Lakes, which is outside of Chicago in Illinois. And just for SATCOM radio stuff, high frequency, just shipboard communications. And then from there went right to Buds from there.
I've talked to, interviewed other SEALs, and they talk about their A school. And it might have been Andy Stumpf. I think he was sonar.
I think
and there's other people who, they go to their A school. It's just a random one that's nothing to do. And that might be the first one. I'm like, actually, that's a good foundation to have.
Yeah.
You're going to work with radios. And so,
yeah, it was good. I mean, even when, getting comms, I was never technically a comms guy, but, we all were proficient in basic communications, right? Yeah. So, and when we're talking about, setting up SATCOM radios and stuff, I already understood the concept of everything. So it was interesting. In the Navy, there's a few jobs that might kind of apply to special operations, but not too many. your point, like torpedo men, or whatever it is, it might not apply.
There's one thing I do. I'm actually being a little two-faced about this. Because when some people ask me like, well, what if I don't make it? I know whether I say it to them, what's my inside voice, I kind of think, well, you probably already shouldn't go. Like I had no plan B.
Yes.
There was just it's you have to be consumed by this or nothing, or else you won't make it.
I couldn't agree more.
But I've also told people before that if they wanted to go be, whether it be a Green Beret or a SEAL, that I've told them you should go be a Green Beret because if you don't make it, you'll still end up in the 82nd.
Oh yeah,
and you're still an airborne, paratrooper.
Yes.
And if you wanted to go to war, you're still going to go to war.
Yeah.
And that's just not true with the Navy.
No.
And the numbers aren't with you.
No, they're
and
not.
if you don't make it, like the consolation prize is drastically different.
Yes.
But in the same way, I actually respect that because you know that. But you don't care. Like
No, you're going for it.
You're going for it. Yeah.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, that thought did cross my mind, especially in buds when you're like getting surf torture. Like, if I decide to maybe not be here, I could be on a ship chipping paint, like I said, or in a Radio Shack or something.
Yeah.
But where if I was perhaps in SF selection or whatever, it's like you bounce out, 80 sec, you're still kind of can get in some high speed stuff.
Right. It could also be just another reason not to quit.
It was. It was well, and the instructors would say like, there's options, and they would just point out to ships on the right on the horizon, and it was pretty. They'd remind you, and it was like, okay. I mean, and nothing against if there's any Navy sailors out there listening, nothing against that, but for me and guys wanting that program, that's the whole reason you joined was for that.
It's simple. It's not what you signed up for. It's not shade on anyone.
No way.
It's just a fact. It's not what you signed up for. When did you turn 18 in buds?
Yeah, I was 18 when I checked into buds, and then I would end up turning 19 while I was in buds. Wait, let me make sure I got that right. Yes, I would turn 19 in buds.
I don't expect an exact number, but what year are we talking about?
99.
99. I don't expect an exact number, but how large roughly was your buds class, and how many people were 18 years old in your buds class? Just give an idea of it.
I would say
rough numbers
in the beginning. Rough numbers,
right?
I would say we started with perhaps 180 guys or so, and guys were 18. There was probably 10 or less, maybe 6 or less of us. We were very young,
right?
Like I was
small
in
numbers,
very
not
small.
a one-off, but
no, I wasn't like the only 18-year-old.
Numbers.
There was a couple. I think there might even, now that I think about it, there was a friend of mine actually who was even younger than me. Like I think he was 17 and turned 18 in buds.
Yeah,
which is crazy.
That is crazy. But it's not like you got a whole lot more life experience.
No. I'm like, we're talking about like 6 months or something.
But it is crazy. It really is. I went through our selection and Q course process when I was 23.
Sure.
And there's a big difference between, and you're still young, but there's a big difference between 17
you're like a
and
freshman in college. I mean, when you imagine like what a freshman in college does,
I've which on the subject, so I randomly think about it. DJ Shipley was very young.
He was
just like you, like going into the teams, and again, like just like you. And I just think to myself, like, I don't know. I think he was 18 or 19. In combat.
I think he might have been.
And I can't imagine the pressure of performing with those men.
Yes.
And not having some sort of imposter syndrome.
Absolutely.
It's a lot for a young man. It's crazy, but
guys
you and him both did it.
Yeah. And DJ, it's interesting. Yeah, we're all teammates and go back, but you're right, because I recall checking into buds and seeing the instructors and just being like, holy shit, that's like a SEAL instructor,
right?
And being like a teenager. And being so intimidated by it, and but then still just being like, all right, well, I'm just let's just keep going. You know what I mean? Like, okay, get over yourself. Like, you're here. You know,
If you don't too much,
if you don't keep pushing, you're gonna be on that fucking ship. You know,
it always comes back.
You're
to
gonna be
the
18
ship.
on a ship.
Right. Do you remember after Hell Week how many 18-year-olds were still there? Again, just a rough guess.
Not many, because I will say this. I know the highest attrition rate is the younger guys in buds. I'm sure it probably isn't any soft selection, I would assume, but from my experience, just being in buds, that it really, the guys that usually were quitting were like the 18, 19, 20-year-olds, because I would imagine the intimidation of it, or just the gravity of it.
Right.
The self-confidence, the imposter syndrome, to your point.
Right. I don't think there's any way for them to really wrap their minds around what's about to happen to them.
Yeah.
And the older guys at least either have some experience or they knew someone who tried and quit and heard their stories or read books. There's a lot of things they can gather from. They may not know exactly how bad it's going to be because they haven't lived it yet. But I feel like they at least can mentally closely grasp it to where as a young man, it's just got to be a lot to take in.
And the years that we were going through, like there wasn't any information. I mean, now you can watch stuff on YouTube from the different phases. There's more. I mean, there was books, I suppose, but you really didn't know. I mean, I was lucky. I kind of had an inside with my cousin being in the SEAL team, so I got a little.
That's right.
Little bit of the inside scoop. But I mean, we're talking about conversations. It wasn't like you're watching, Buds Class 234 on YouTube or something like that, which I don't know is good or bad. There might be like a good where you just
I know
you might not knowing enough and just going for it. Who knows?
I've always leaned more towards I'd rather not know.
Yeah, me too. Like less
I'd rather
is more.
not know.
Yeah.
Because you said you think so many younger people quit, but you were one of the youngest in the class. You didn't. Why do you think you didn't quit? What do you think separated you from the other young?
I think it was just an internal drive. I think it was a mindset of just, there's something they say in buds, and I'm sure there's something similar in other selection courses where it's just make it to the next meal.
Here at the Tier 1 podcast, we're excited to have Tasty Gains as a sponsor, a company with values that aligns with ours. I take their products every day, 3 times a day. And if it wasn't a product that I didn't take personally and believe in, and a company with integrity, then they wouldn't be sponsors on this show. Creatine helps the body produce more ATP, which is an energy molecule that your entire body runs on. It helps improve your physical and mental performance in all aspects of life. Let's be honest, creatine powder sucks to take every day. With the creatine gummies, you can take them with you anywhere and they taste great. Every batch is third-party tested, so you know you're getting exactly what you pay for. Go to tastygains.com and enter the promo code Tier1, that's TIER, the number 1, and get 20% off your order.
And I remember getting that advice from one of the instructors and just being like, I'll just do what the instructors tell me. And to include that. And I think when you just really break it down to really small things, if you can't make it to the next meal, just make it at the top of the hour. Can't make it at the top of the hour, just make it the next 5 minutes. And so I just really took that. I just did what I was told, I think, and just applied that. And then, and it just got me through a lot, whether it was like a surf torture or a long dive or run or whatever it might be, anything that was kind of a gut check. It was just, there's always going to be a beginning, middle, and end. Right. And so like, where do you think you are right now? Maybe in the middle. Okay, just keep going. Like make it to that palm tree on the run. Okay, cool. Make it to the next one. So I think it was just breaking it down.
I have a few more extra questions for you that I don't think I've asked anyone else, but really because of your age, I'm just I'm enamored by such a young man going through this process. Before Hell Week starts, I believe you start it on like a Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening.
Yep.
Right. Like before you go into that, you've made it this far. That's your crucible, right? I mean, you think you know what's coming, but you don't know how bad it's going to be. No. How nervous are you before that starts?
Oh man, I was nervous. I was really really nervous. I remember and going back in the time machine here of thinking we were able to watch some like movies. I remember we watched, I think it was Gladiator, or maybe it wasn't Gladiator. It was it was Platoon. And that's what it was, wasn't it? And we ordered Domino's pizzas, you know, and we just sat. And I remember being so nervous that I couldn't eat, and I knew that I had to eat, you know, to get as many calories in my system.
Right.
And I was so nervous, I couldn't. I was just forcing myself to eat this like stale Domino's pepperoni pizza, and I was I really was, because I had seen classes before us, you know, with guys that I looked up to, the guys that were maybe Division I athletes that were like actual men, because you know, as men too, when you're 18, 19, you're not fully developed, and so I'm seeing guys that are maybe, you know, old guys at like 24, 25, who are perhaps elite athletes who had quit. And it was almost like, oh, I'm just a decent athlete, like high school. You know, I'm like, okay, but I'm not like a Division I champion. Yeah. And so I was super intimidated for sure.
When you made it through it, although I'm sure by the end of it, everything's a dream.
Yeah, totally.
When you make it through, when does it end? It starts on a Sunday evening. It ends on a
Friday, if I recall, Friday afternoon.
Okay.
Or maybe like late afternoon. And yes, we were, you know, you go 5.5 days or so on maybe 4.5 hours, 4 hours of sleep, and you're hallucinating.
Right.
You know, there's medical checks a lot because our immune systems are down. They want to make sure guys, you know, they're trying to take care of you, but you're all beat up. And I remember when it finally ended, I thought they were still messing with us, because they would mess with you like any selection. They're always messing with you. So it's just like, yeah, sure. And they're like, no, seriously, it's over.
Yeah.
And it's like,
who's dumb enough to walk away right now?
Totally. Like, I'll just jump back in the ocean, because I know they're like, what are you doing? Like, it's over. Like, yeah, right.
After that, like you got to go to bed on a Friday to wake up on a Sunday. Like,
yes.
What happens to you when it's over with?
Great question. So I remember, and it's a little spotty, so bear with me on this. So you get this like really large Gatorade. It wasn't a 1 liter. It might have been like a 2 liter. This is like in the 90s. So like, I don't know. I haven't seen these around since, but it's like something you might get at Costco, like this huge Gatorade, and they'd give you a pizza. I don't know. I'm seeing a theme here. Where's the high performance nutritionist or dietitian?
Is Bud sponsoring? Is Domino's sponsoring Buds? What's going on here?
Might as well. So I remember getting a pizza and this massive Gatorade, and they take you back, you know, to your room, and then they have there's other students that didn't go through Hell Week. I think were rollbacks that would come in and do checks on you, just to kind of swing through and make sure guys are okay, because they're still making sure medically you're all right. And then you do sleep. I want to say certainly you're out. Like almost like I remember waking up and it was like a truck hit you. Like I was in pain, right? Yeah. And I mean, probably a good thing to be like a teenager at that point. Exactly. You know what I mean? Can't imagine the guys are a little bit older, but I just remember feeling like a train hit us. And then if I recall, like later that next day, you go get checked out. They kept checking on you medically, but it was that weekend. All you're doing is sleeping, and you're hobbling around, you know, with like chafing in between your legs, and you know, it's just like you're a hot mess if you try to like later that weekend go out in town, you know. Like,
but you got to think to some level through all the pain. Again, especially as a young man, there's got to be that I did it.
Yes,
I saw other men that were bigger than me, that were older than me, that didn't do it.
Yes,
there's that inner voice has to be like. Some self-pride.
Yes.
Like, and you earned that part of self-pride.
Absolutely. And that's what I think is so incredible about for me in my experience, but also for any soft unit, and like for a young man that goes through any of those, it's just like nobody can take that from you.
Exactly.
Right? It doesn't matter your demographic. It doesn't matter your background. If you came from an affluent family or a poor family, whatever it is, it's like, it doesn't matter.
Right.
It's just like, you make it,
right.
You perform. And so there was a pride. I mean, the course wasn't over, of course, but there was like well, the thing is, you're super cool. Well, not really, but so before you go through Hell Week, you have like a white T-shirt, like that you run around. That's like part of your uniform.
Right.
And then when you make it through Hell Week, you're like Joe Cool because you get a brown T-shirt. Yeah. You're like now a brown shirt. And so there's like a status symbol, you know, and so there's like a little bit of pride as you're running around with a brown t-shirt on. like Hanes, super scratchy.
So now as an 18-year-old, you get to look at like these 24-year-old D1 athletes in white shirts. I mean, what's up, please?
Yeah. What's up, nerds? Yeah, totally.
I remember when I was at your part of training.
Yeah, they're like, what, last week? Yeah, whatever.
That was a long week.
It was a long week, bro. Yeah, totally. You don't know.
You're about to find out.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. We'll see if you get a brown shirt.
Yeah, exactly.
He gets a brown shirt. Take it.
Exactly. Dang. Yeah. And he looks better in it too, of course.
So you end up, through training, you end up going to SEAL Team 3.
Yes.
And what pre 9/11? What were the SEAL teams doing?
That's a great question. So at SEAL Team 3, like pre 9/11, it was for the Whiteside SEALs. You had the Little Creek SEALs were kind of doing some stuff in Bosnia, which we were really jealous of on the West Coast because it was the only thing kind of going on. However, on the West Coast, we were doing some VBSS or visit, board, search, and seizure, basically ship takedowns. Of there was an embargo around Iraq at the time where Saddam was, unable. He was having to smuggle oil, and so SEAL Team 3 was doing shipboards and just taking down these smuggling ships. It wasn't. I mean, it was super cool for the time, but it wasn't like big shootouts or anything like that, just to kind of, temper it. But it was exciting. I remember even thinking in that era, man, if I would give anything to just be on one operation.
Right.
You know what I mean? Just one. Even if it were a real world mission, right? Even if it wasn't like the coolest one, it was like, it's almost, I can equate it to a professional athlete only practicing and just being like, just get me in one game. I just want to prove I can play the game. I don't have to be the guy that hits the game-winning home run. I just want to suit up and play the game. And I do recall that. But at SEAL Team 3, I was excited, and my friends from other teams were jealous. They're like, "Oh my gosh, you're going to SEAL Team 3? They do VBSS."
Yeah.
And so that's what was going on, at least on the Whiteside SEAL teams.
Where were you at when 9/11 happened?
Well, I was in Australia, Darwin, Australia, and it was my first platoon. And I was so excited because we had this incredible schedule where we were going to like literally join the Navy, see the world. We were going to Hawaii, Thailand, Guam, Australia, and then going out to Bahrain to do those ship takedowns. However, when we were in Australia, we'd only been on deployment for maybe 3 weeks, and we were at a restaurant, and we were told like, you need to get back to the ship, like something's happening. And we were all mad because we've been training all week, and it was finally our like time to like be out on the town, like throw back a few beers or whatever. And so, begrudgingly, we're all just kind of, bitching as we get back to the ship. And I remember walking into the galley on the USS Dubuque LPD-8, and which is decommissioned. But I remember walking in and watching the towers being hit by airplanes, unfortunately. And then I remember they were gathering all the Marines and sailors from out in town, and everybody was the same thing because they'd all been training too. Yeah. And I recall just the emotion of guys seeing it.
UBL took that weekend away from you. You should probably do something about that about 10 years from now. Put that in your back pocket.
Yeah, I was like, man, you know what? I had a great weekend planned for Darwin, Australia.
If I took it away from me.
Never mind the massive catastrophe. And it's like, I need this, man.
I needed this so bad.
Totally.
Of course, it's what we do in our line of work, with some dark humor.
Yeah.
But I'll turn and get serious real quick about it. I mean, that's why I joined. I joined because of 9/11. I have the Twin Towers, tattooed to me. It was like almost every American became, especially people our age. It's like, where were you on 9/11?
Yeah,
and it's some people thank me for my service because I joined for 9/11, but at some point, after a few years of that, actually, I don't know when it happened, I kind of had this different outlook on it because I'm thinking, well, I joined. It took 3,000 Americans losing their life in a huge act of terrorism on our soil for me to join.
Sure,
but for guys like you to join, it didn't take that. You had already joined and you were already serving at a very high level for our country, and for that, I have a lot of respect for what I'll call that, I guess, that generation right before me.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And I'm not just saying this, but I respect the fact that you joined right after too, because you had options, I'm sure, right?
I worked at a small feed store. It was an option.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah.
With my brother. No,
Nice.
some things haven't changed.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a conversational podcast. We're talking about 9/11. I don't care. Drew, what? I don't think I've ever asked you this. When your two little brothers joined the military after 9/11, what did you think about that?
I have no idea. That was a long time ago. You should ask me like 25 years ago.
I see it was very impactful. He's like, get out of here, you two.
Yeah, exactly. You guys, totally. About time.
Honestly, I don't remember. All I knew is I had to get up and go to work the next day, and
Right.
whatever you guys were doing is whatever you guys were doing. Absolutely.
So what did they get everyone back to the ship? What I'm sure is no small task.
No, it wasn't.
Once you release the hounds,
Yes.
it's tough to herd those cats.
Yes.
Where'd they take you after that?
Yeah, so we originally were supposed to go to East Timor because there had been a humanitarian mission was happening, and East Timor's an island chain just above Australia.
Okay.
And so we actually did end up, now that I think about it, going to East Timor to do some humanitarian just for a couple of days. It was just dropping off food. There was like a med cap type thing. And then we steamed right for the coast of Pakistan. And once we got there, I feel so fortunate, especially on a white side SEAL platoon, that our leadership kind of got us in there. And we were able to, we went to Jakokabad, Pakistan, where we were supporting CSAR elements from the Air Force as almost like a security element for them. So that's kind of where we ended up and this would have been, I don't know, late October of maybe mid-October of 2001.
Yeah, it is. You guys started, motoring up north, which is, it just happened in 9/11. It took us several weeks, if not a month, for us to decide what we were going to do, what our response was. So it's awesome that you guys still like let's just go in the area.
Yeah,
so we're gonna
I respect my leadership. Yeah, especially that the older I got and the more senior I got, I kind of thought like, wow, that was just get in there, just be available, and that's all we did. We're like, hey, we've got at the time it was 16-man platoon. We have JTACs and medics and this and that. Like, can we help you out? Type thing.
Yeah.
So,
What was your next rotation after that?
my next rotation was the Iraq invasion, which
so at this point in your career, you're just doing invasions.
yeah, exactly. I'm like, anybody else need to call me Alex Invasion West? No way. No, I got so lucky because at the time they were restructuring some of the SEAL teams to add an extra one. Which was SEAL Team 7, at least on the West Coast. And because of that restructuring, my next workup was really quick and fast. And so that's how I was able to get turned to the next deployment. And so we were actually in Guam, and our whole SEAL Team 3, was reconsolidated in Kuwait for the invasion. And then, we were there, and I was a part of the Alpha Peninsula raid, which essentially SEAL Team 3 as a whole with 40th Commando from the UK. Okay. We took down the really southern point of Basra, which was the Alpha Peninsula. There's some oil rigs, which some of our platoons took down. And then I was on the oil field, this really large oil field. But that was the only operation I did on that deployment, because when I came back, I had orders to development group selection. So, but
that operation that you guys did in the oil tankers, oil fields, oil rigs. Yeah, that was a SEAL team wide operation.
Very rare.
There can't be many team wide operations.
I have not heard of one since. I'm not saying it hasn't happened. I might just be ignorant to it, but I'd never heard of one before that or since. So I'm not saying I'm sure somebody might throw something in the comments, but as far as I remember, it was very rare. And I remember it's rare just to have a whole SEAL team deployed together, let alone, one big, it was a very large as far as like nautical miles in between all the targets. It was interesting. I'm proud to be a part of it, especially on a white side type operation. The guys did a good job.
Yeah, those are the type of operations where, like the amazing part of that, and especially as a younger assaulter, I don't think I would have been able to wrap my head around it. It's not necessarily the tactics, of that. Like you just get the boys a target. They'll get the job done.
Yes,
but that becomes the task. Like logistically moving a whole team simultaneously or near simultaneously to multiple different targets with certain amount of resources, and then having bump plans in case one doesn't get there.
Absolutely.
Just the planning part of that had to be just enormous on leadership.
Absolutely. And the era, right? Because we're talking 2003, right? I mean, it's easy now, when I reflect back, 10 years later when we've been at war forever, it's like things were just, the leaders had been mentored by other leaders and this and that. That's how it's always been. But this was like the leaders hadn't never been in combat. In the SEAL teams, at least, there was a couple little things like Grenada, Panama type thing. But reality was we had a lot of our tactics were based on Vietnam.
Yeah.
And some basic, some modern stuff, but not really, not in that era. We hadn't gotten there quite yet.
Yeah. I got into combat around 04, end of 04, 05. So by the time I got there, maybe a guy had 2 rotations, but everyone had 1 rotation, and at least felt like at the time knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
But I remember talking to guys both on the Tier 1 level and the white side that were part of invasions, and they were like, we really didn't know. In hindsight, we didn't know anything. We were figuring it out. Like we were really weak on mobility. We were really weak on just all on planning. We were really weak on night work.
Yeah.
We thought we had this, but when it came to it, we did not.
So
we had to make it up on
SSE.
On the fly.
Prisoner handling, all of these like little things that guys perhaps might not take advantage of, but they might not think twice.
Granted. Just
take for granted. But like in that era,
Right.
it was like,
Right.
how do you SSE? Like, what is SSE?
Yeah, and we had on my ODA at several ODAs had to send a representative to the SODIF because in 04. Because the FBI was giving a class to everyone how they do SSE.
That's how
they did the sketch, how they took the pictures, how they labeled rooms, how they labeled compounds. And we had to take that back to our teams and tell everyone else how we do it. Yeah. And it was, like I said, and that was years into the war. And we're still trying to figure out and refine this process.
Absolutely.
And I think you told me a story about like mobility.
Yes.
That was something you guys like, I'm not sure if we...
Great.
I think you said, I'd never done this, right?
No.
I'd never done nods driving or something like this.
That's a great point. I'm glad you brought it up. Yeah, during the Afghan, my first deployment, we ended up doing some mechanized reconnaissance. Obviously, that Afghan invasion, hats off to the SF teams. That was all of them. They did a great job. All that, we're doing some mechanized reconnaissance below Kandahar. Nothing too crazy, but it was cool. Like, I mean, you're talking like, for me, that was like, oh my gosh. But I remember my platoon chief saying like, hey, Alex, you're going to be one of the drivers. Let me back up. We just inherited some Humvees. Okay. Right. It wasn't like we worked up with these and it was part of our team. It was like, we got these Humvees together. Right. And then, and I remember my platoon chief saying like, you're going to be one of the drivers. And have you ever driven on nods? And I remember telling him, no, I can foot patrol on nods, like thinking I'm all Joe Cool. And he's like, yeah, cool story. He was like, well, you need to start doing laps around Camp Rhino, which was like this airfield out in outside of Kandahar. Okay. And we were just doing laps, just getting time. Yeah. He's like, I want you guys to just keep doing laps all night. Well, not all night, but like just we're going out in a couple nights, and you're just going to get good at this, changing tires on nods, all of these things where we did not have any of that background in NSW, at least.
I'm telling you that's another really good point, and I'm glad he thought about that, changing tires under nods.
Yes,
or it's oddly enough, even changing tires during
Yeah.
the daytime. Like
Yes.
it's just not something. It's something we learned and
Sure.
figured out that we're operating this really rocky terrain, and you will get a flat.
Oh, for sure.
And you don't want to be static and stuck for hours and hours on end when it should be a drill that you
quick.
can knock out in 15, 30 minutes
Absolutely.
and be on the road.
Yeah.
If you've ever been to any of my tactical training classes, then you know how adamant I am about the use of white light and the importance of a quality, high-powered tactical light. That's why I use Cloud Defensive Tac Lights. You can't hit what you can't see, and neither can the bad guys. Clearly identify your target and simultaneously overwhelm his vision with hundreds and even thousands of lumens. Get serious about defending yourself and your family. Go to clouddefensive.com and use promo code Tier1 to get 30% off your order. That's right, 30%. You won't find a better light than this, and you won't find a better deal than this. Do you remember what nods you had back then?
Yes. Okay. Let me make sure I get this right. The original ones we were stoked. We were happy. We had PVS 15s, not PVS 15 alphas, but like 15. But we had just upgraded from the 7 Charlies or 7 Bravos or something.
Okay.
So so they were the dual, which was like we had just gotten right before we left, and because before that, it was like the single old school.
So so the 14s were just the monoculars.
Yes.
And we had those.
We had some of those too.
Believe it or not, I still saw it was in the inventory at least in 04, 05.
Mm-hmm.
Some guys on the team, or not on the team, in the inventory, still had those 7 Charlies and 7 Deltas.
For
We're
sure.
still in the inventory.
Oh,
We had them.
Yeah. They're yes.
And then we went to the 14s, the monocular. I don't think we got 15s for years after that. You guys were way ahead of us on that. It was a couple years after that.
Yeah. So now that I think about it, so I had 15s, I think because I was a driver. Now that I think about it. And I think before that it was a to your point, the monocle. So so maybe half of us or a few of us had the 15s, but there's a reason for it. Like you're the driver. It wasn't, I'm sure as a new guy I would have just been stuck with the monocle, like just that one.
Well, I'm sure you were the envy of the team. Everyone wants to have the latest gear, the newest gear, the newest gloves.
Oh man, I was
the coolest bump helmet or the helmet or the
Tech 2. I think I didn't even have an aim point. It was like a reflex sight. I think at the time. Yeah, so
it's so crazy, especially like beginning of the war. Like we're starting to get some new equipment, but you didn't always have enough new equipment for everybody.
Oh no.
So when somebody gets new equipment that not everyone gets, they become the talk of the team.
Oh yeah.
Where'd you get that?
Yeah. Totally.
Oh yeah. They were just giving them out at log. They don't have enough for everyone. So you just got enough for yourself, huh?
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. You got for you. Hey, I'm glad you're good, bro.
Yeah, equipment was a big deal early on.
Especially in the early years. Yeah, for sure.
Man, so when you came back to screen for DEVGRU, what had that screening go? And you're still young.
I was very young. Yeah, I was fortunate because that same platoon chief, his name is Todd Sharbut, a mentor and a very close friend of mine still to this day. He had just come from the development group and he rolled right into our platoon chief. And so I remember him just being better at everybody and everything and just being like shooting tactics, mindset, all the things. And I didn't know too much about development group. However, outside of like the Rogue Warrior book we were just talking about,
right?
But like, outside of that, I didn't know anybody who had been there. I just on the West Coast, you weren't around it, and so. But when I saw him, especially like tactically, it was like there's something different.
Yeah. And
I really looked up to him, and I remember at the time, DEVGRU was looking to kind of change up their selection because historically it was older guys who had screened, so maybe late 20s, early 30s. And they were just going to try out where they could bring in a younger guy. And my platoon chief was like, you might want to they're looking for maybe a younger guy. You might want to give it a shot. And I was still like imposter syndrome. Like, I don't know. Like I'd done one platoon. And at the time I was 22 and 21, 20, somewhere around there. And he kind of gave me the little like nudge, like what's the worst thing that's going to happen? Like, okay, you don't get picked up. So you go back next year or the following year. So I went for it, and I remember being intimidated, very intimidated, but Fortunately, I got picked up, at 22, and then at 23, when I got back from Iraq, is when I went through selection.
So you screened, you got picked up, and then you go back to Iraq.
Yeah. I just go on that second deployment because it wasn't the class wasn't going to start until we got back, roughly when we got back. And then when we were in Iraq, the master chief of the SEAL team was actually an old DEVGRU guy too. After that first hit in Al-Fa, he said, all right, brought in all the guys who had screened and had orders. Hey guys, here's the thing. You need to make a decision. You're either going to go to screen or we're driving with the Marines up to Baghdad. And I just need to know right now. Yeah. And I was like, I don't know, like that sounds pretty exciting. Like with the, into Baghdad. Yeah. And then he said, and I told him that, and he's like, you know what, these wars aren't going to go anywhere. And trust me, if you're going to want to be in these, I'm going to recommend you're going to kick yourself if you're not at a JSOC assault team. At least give it a shot. So I took his advice, and I'm glad I did. I mean, I would have been fine either way.
That is good advice.
Yeah.
It really is. It must have hurt a little bit thinking that they could go on without you.
Oh yeah. It was hard. It was hard. Yeah. And because at the time too, we did not know Iraq would turn into what it was.
Right.
And at the time, even Afghanistan was kind of at a, we're talking 2002, 2003. So it was like the initial invasion happened, and then we're trying to figure out our intelligence and all of that. So it wasn't exactly like outside of Anaconda and all of that. I don't want to minimize that, but there was a couple things, but overall it was this all going to die down, and am I going to miss it? So I was nervous, and my team, my platoon was,
All right. Yeah. The audacity of them though to push to Baghdad without their first string player.
Yeah. I mean, like, still to this day, like, what are you guys thinking? you had a 22-year-old ginger. You know what I mean? Who knows what could have happened?
You sure you guys would be okay without me? Like, we'll be fine.
Well, that's exactly what the master chief said. I was like, well, I don't know. And he's like, we're going to be just fine. Trust me. Like almost like laughing in my face. And like, kind of like, okay, thank you, master chief. I'll just shut up and go. Wouldn't be the first time that happened, actually.
The subtleties of being humbled sometimes is a lot. Take my ball, go over here then.
Fine. Fine, I'll go to screening and hopefully make it.
Did your age come up at all in the screening process?
Absolutely, yeah. In the screening process, I remember them asking me like, hey, we're trying this out. If we decide to pick you up, we're going to try this out with you. And fortunately, I had that opportunity. And because of the timing of the restructuring of the SEAL teams, I was able to get there so young. And when I did, though, even the cadre also, it wasn't like, yeah, he's cool, he's young, it's like, I wouldn't say I got extra attention, but it was certainly, they're gatekeepers, as they should be.
As they should be,
and they didn't obviously care, but I feel like I got a little extra, as I should have.
A little extra attention.
Yeah, a little extra, but it was fair. Like I remember one cadre in particular, Turbo, was very fair, and he certainly kept the standard. But he there's guys that were fair.
I've been to his sniper summit.
Oh yeah,
and I've had drinks out of his prosthetic
Oh,
leg.
same. Yeah. I don't know if you can hang out with Turbo without drinking out of his prosthetic leg. And if you haven't, you should be ashamed of yourself. You're missing out.
It was so you make it through the teams. When you first get to Red Squadron, I'd imagine, like, are you still feeling the pressure of being what is probably just going to, at the time, the youngest operator
at the time,
to pass?
Yeah, guys after me, there was other guys that are 23. Right. I don't, but there was. It was an uphill battle for me for a while. I mean, just like any, I would imagine from your old unit too, you just show up and it's like, take the trash out. But I was also young.
Right.
So it was.
I think it's a weird, almost like dichotomy to it, because on one side you're very young, and so you would think like there's still that kind of pressure on you. But the other side, you have passed Green Team. Yes. You have met the standard. You have proven that you deserve to be here. So that's why I wonder if you still felt that way on the teams, or they look at you and be like, well, you met the standard, and now it's whatever you do, regardless of age, that proves you need to be here. Or do you feel like there was scrutiny of your age still?
I think there was A little bit of both. I think there was, certainly I made it, and it wasn't like they were like, you don't deserve to be here, but there was an age thing too. But at the end of the day, we were hitting target, I was on target and all of that. So yeah, maybe it was more of like a little bit of extra like trash talking a little bit, but it was like very,
Right.
It wasn't like so pointed. It was more of, I mean, I felt honored to be on that, at that age, because I remember during the screening process, the cadre, when they did take a chance on me, they were like, the reason why we're trying this out at least is because you could historically, you could do another 5 years at a SEAL team, or you could get here younger and develop the tactics and techniques and get molded in our vision of how we want it done.
Right.
And so by the time you move up the ranks and become like an assault team leader, you've been there forever and you have a ton of reps, and you hopefully maximize your potential.
It's funny that they described it like that. We had a SIF guy and with a lot of experience in my OTC, and he didn't make it. And it's not because he wasn't good enough or he wasn't proficient. He was very proficient in the way they did business. But the problem is once you have that many reps doing business a certain way, as you're well aware, it doesn't mean the way he did business was wrong,
right?
But we all have to do business the same way,
yes.
And it's now this tier one standard way. It's this way, and I think the muscle memory was just too deeply ingrained for him to do business our way, and it really was. It's kind of tough to watch him go because that's one of the best guys in the class.
That happens in the Navy, on the Navy side too, because even when I went through, or when I was an instructor there of selection, you would see that guys who had spent a lot of time in the SEAL teams, who had great reputations, but they had a lot of experience. However, they had a lot of, I wouldn't say bad habits. They just knew the techniques that they were trained, which were maybe a little different than what selection was. And it was hard to get out of that rut.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've seen the same thing, like great guys too. It just didn't work out.
What year did you get to Red Squadron?
I went through Green Team in 03, so right after that, and I was there from 03 to 14. Okay.
Was it off to Afghanistan from there?
Yes. Yeah, my first deployment was to Afghanistan and an Omega in Shkin, Afghanistan, in Paktika.
Yep.
Way out, right on the border. And that was my first deployment with Red.
That's a unique deployment. In fact, so to tell people what the Omega teams are. Some people have heard about them. I've heard people talk about them before and be wrong. But surprisingly enough, like how many people don't know what an Omega team is? What is the Omega teams?
Yeah, I'd be happy to talk about it. What the Omega teams were CIA's paramilitary, and they would take. So they had their own guys that were kind of like their primary, I would say, leaders, and like would lead their units or their indigenous forces. However, because they were not part of Department of Defense, they couldn't call in airstrikes, they couldn't call in medevac helicopters or anything like that. So JSOC at the time, or DEVGRU at the time in Afghanistan, would chop over a few guys. Depended on the outstation, on the size and number. Like when I was in Shkin, we had a lot actually. We had about 12 guys. But usually, but that was very rare. Yeah. Usually it was, I would say, 2 actual assaulters, and then maybe a JTAC and a medic that would support, and then maybe like a comms support guy or something like that. And you essentially would be part of almost an advisory force within that, hitting targets.
Yeah. I think just because, again, not a whole lot of people know about them. People, whether they know or not, they'll fill that information void with opinions and things that they've heard.
Yeah, totally.
And really just speaking of Afghanistan specifically, because there could be things that I don't know about as well. But Ground Branch is they're really more like, people, again, will think that they're this very mythical place and they do these, black op jobs all over the world. But in Afghanistan, they were essentially just very high paid Green Berets.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what it was. That's exactly what it was.
with not a fraction of the resources of an ODA.
No, it's true cowboy stuff.
It really was cowboy stuff.
Yeah.
And they got paid well, and they lived in great places, great
did.
gyms. They had their own chef. You know, they just had
they
some
did.
cool things.
You were stoked if you were going to I mean, outside of Shkin, actually, the first one that one was pretty rugged. But when I was at another one in Jalalabad, it was exactly that. It was. You couldn't, guys would fight over it to be like, I want to go there. Do they have a chef? They have this and that, you know, it was the whole thing.
Your own big room.
Oh yeah.
Like, great.
Oh yeah. Your own
conditions.
room. It was huge. Yeah. Almost like a hotel.
Yeah. But I'm telling you, there's like, it was just never a job that I was interested in.
Sure.
And I'm not, discounting that job. I'm saying just me personally. Yeah. Like the money was great, but like I said, those boys are really hanging it out there.
Much respect to those guys.
They needed, again, like you said, they needed DOD to be attached to them because they needed your resources.
Yes, absolutely.
They really did. And some of those guys got into some nasty firefights.
They sure did. Yeah. They really did. And they would turn and burn. They'd do a lot of deployments and they would hang it out. And
Here's one thing that, that I'll put a positive on it is because of the way their structure and oversight worked. At least they didn't have to fight with the siege of SOTF and get, at least they had some freedom of movement and the oversight was there, but I don't believe it was as suffocating as on certain parts of the military side.
Right. Yeah. They didn't have as much, quote unquote red tape or like infighting or whatever competition. It was, they just had their partner force and were, like to your point, just high paid ODA teams essentially with a couple JSOC guys attached. Yeah. And there was a lot of really good operations that they did a lot of really kinetic stuff and we're definitely a force multiplier in regions and a lot of guys did there a lot of good stuff happened from that.
You enjoyed the Omega missions.
I did.
If it wasn't an Omega mission, what was the alternative?
The alternative was actually, in my opinion, cooler.
Okay.
It was the Strike Force.
Okay.
Right. I mean, just as an assaulter, like through and through. At least for me, I just loved assaulting, kill houses, shooting, and so that's what I wanted to be on. I mean, I wasn't. So you'd rotate out. Maybe one deployment, you'd be on a assault force that would take down just DEVGRU SEALs taking down targets around the country, or you're at a mega. You're kind of rotating one deployment, doing one, next the other.
Then at one point, do you know why you guys gave that mission up to the Rangers, to RRD?
Yeah, that's a great question. If I recall, and it was, we started needing more force multiplying basically because we had, we were sending guys over to Iraq also to support the army. And then we just didn't have enough because then we'd have a strike force. Oh yeah, we had multiple strike forces in Afghanistan. Mm-hmm. Now at a certain point when Iraq started winding down, Afghanistan kind of started picking up. Mm-hmm. And then with that became intelligence that started finding more targets. Because for a while there, the effort was just in Iraq. It was like all about it. You were almost like the bastard children if you went to Afghanistan. Like no joke, we were on I remember being on a strike force. We were the strike force for the whole country, and there was maybe like 15 assaulters on it. Yeah. And we would and there wasn't much intelligence, infrastructure, all that. So I think when it shifted back to Afghanistan, there was just more of a request for forces, and RRD was a great unit to help with that. Mm-hmm. And then over time, it slowly, when the Rangers started taking over, I think we pulled out, started moving to other AOs. Okay. And that's what it is. I mean, that's how I recall it, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's cool that you guys got an opportunity to go over to Iraq with us. There's a little bit of Tier 1 history.
Yes.
When Iraq kicked off, we basically, the Tier 1 units split the AOs. Yep. Like SEAL Team 6, you're going to take over and stay in Afghanistan. Yep. Delta Force, you're going to go to Iraq.
Right.
And then at some point when we surged, we got so busy. I'm sure you guys didn't want to leave Afghanistan, but a phone call was made like, we could use some help over here. Would you like to come over here?
Yes.
And you guys left the the paradise that is Afghanistan.
The jewel of Asia.
No one ever about Afghanistan.
No one ever.
And you're one of the few beginning troop or personnel to come over and work with us.
Yes.
And I think that was really cool.
Oh yeah. I mean, we were, to set the context, we were professionally jealous of the Army because they were, we were hearing about it. Like, they were daily operations and the environment too, street battle, like that type of thing was just so designed for that. And, we were in Afghanistan and, doing good stuff, but it was, we were like, oh man, if we could just get over there, I just want the experience. And then, fortunately, General McChrystal at the time, who was JSOC commander, was like, hey, you guys are so alike. There's some like old school weird rivalry going on that's not that healthy. You're going to do exchanges.
Yeah.
Because you're more alike than you're different. And I'm going to show you why. And so I remember on my first deployment, 2004, actually, we had some guys from C Squadron with us, great guys, that came with us. And then and we had a team that went with them. And then that next tour in 2005 is when I went over, and I felt very fortunate. And there was, when I remember landing in Ramadi, a guy who picked me up was a guy by the name of Bob Horgan, and he was one of the biggest mentors I ever had in my whole career. And he right off the bat picked me up because I was nervous, I was young. Yeah. And I actually went over there because of a request for forces, because at the time they had C Squadron, a very kinetic deployment. And instead of pulling guys from North Carolina, they're like, hey, do you guys have a few extra, just shooters? That's all we need, just some more shooters. So I was part of that. And Bob picked me up at the airport. So I was, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm nervous. I'm young. I haven't really worked up with these guys. What are they going to think about? All these like things.
Right. Yeah.
And he picked me up, and right off the bat, he's like, you're my shooting buddy. And like we're going to be friends. And I was like, and he was older. He was like 39. He was an old B Squadron guy. He came over for his last pump. Yeah. And I was like, he's kind of like a great reputation. I was like, okay, roger that. And then he was the team breacher, and he was like, do you breach? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, well, I'm going to show you how we do it. I know it's similar, but let me just show you how we do it. And we would just trade off every night. Like if I would do the breach, he'd be my security guy. The next one, we'd swap off. And we did that forever, became really close friends. And, unfortunately, that deployment continued to get more kinetic. And we lost Bob and Mike McNulty on an operation. And those guys... I still think about them. Especially Bob. That he had one of the biggest impacts of any operator on me in my life.
Man, I'm so glad you told that story. I personally love that story because as much as the internet and social media wants us to have this who's better Delta Force versus SEAL Team 6 beef, it's just not there. And we've worked along with each other for years, and the common respect that the two units have at an assaulter point to point level is massive.
Absolutely,
is absolutely massive. And for for Bob, was probably one of the oldest at that time, and in that place, assaulters come pick up the new guy and be like.
The old guy pick up the young guy.
Come here. You're my shooting buddy now.
Yeah. There's no choice. He's like, you're my shooting buddy. And I was like, roger that. Yeah. And he's like, and we're going to be friends. I was like, yeah, roger that. I'm like, I don't know anybody. So yeah, I'd love to have a friend. A little nervous.
Right.
Yeah. And he just broke down in like that nerves. And he was, it was just a great, and you're right. Like it's, of course there's like, there might be like a good little rivalry in there where it's
in
like.
a good way.
In a good way. It's like, from my, it's like, did you hear about, what the Army guys are doing with this technique or this technology? It's like, what? No, that's a good idea. Like, I want to know more. And so there's like, it's good. But I think what General McChrystal noticed was like, hey, this is going past that. This is ridiculous. And you're right. And and I ever since then, even before that, I obviously respected the Army guys, but it was after that, I was like, I really felt, it wasn't just Bob, it was the whole crew brought me in, and I really felt like I was an assaulter, like a straight up part of the team.
Well, his plan, McChrystal's plan obviously worked, because when he was like, hey, there's some sort of like unhealthy, almost, competition here, because by the time I got there several years later, I never saw it. Good. I didn't know that really even existed. Yeah. Because getting to work, with each other, obviously bridged that gap.
Absolutely.
And that lasted, at the beginning of my career, all the way to the end of my career.
I'm glad to hear it's still going. Yeah, and I think it was maybe some old school stuff from like maybe the 90s or something like that. But I didn't. Yeah, thankfully that happened, and I'm glad, because later on when I would go back on other tours to Iraq with a blue troop, with the Navy, my Dev Group troop, it was great because you'd see the other guys and be like, hey, maybe one of our snipers was like, hey, can you introduce me to the sniper team leader? And it's like, yeah, I'll just pull you. I'd be like, hey, what's up, bro? Good to see you. Or the breacher, or whatever it might be. It just made things just go so smoothly, because we would end up QRFing for each other. We'd be on these 24-hour cycles where maybe the Army had the day and then we had the night, or vice versa. Whatever it was, it just made things go so smooth.
And I love that you got that surge experience at the unit. Those surge assaulters are looked at with so much respect because of what they did, and to some degree, I feel like some people either hear those stories or they just assume like that is Tier 1 life in combat,
right,
all the time,
right?
And it's just not true. That was the truth for the surge.
Sure, in that
that's
era.
not necessarily true for the whole GWAT, where you guys were going on nightly missions, 2 missions a night. You could go on 3 missions with follow-on targets. It was just getting after it. And America asked literally the smallest units, the smallest essentially task force.
Yep.
And the whole war to put a massive amount of responsibility on his back, and they did it. They did it. You guys were the ones that kind of started, strike to develop. They're like, all right, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
What do you want done? What's your end state? We'll figure it out. And you guys did that.
Yeah, and you're right. There was a lot of weight on those units in that era, and a lot of guys did a lot of things. To your point, the op tempo was crazy, where you could go on 2 or 3 ops a night and then go home, take a shower, go to bed. However, you might be on QRF for, the another, and then you get woken up after a few hours, and now you're like, oh my gosh! But it was so exciting, and it was exactly what I signed up for. But I will say this: it took a toll because there was so much weight on such small. If you look at the grand scope of the military, there was a lot of weight on those units, especially in Iraq on the Army. And I want to kind of give a shout out too to the Ranger Regiment also, because they were there with all of those units as well. So those guys all they were at it too, and TF-160. I mean, I can go on, right? Like I don't want to forget those guys.
Those guys have to support everyone.
I don't want to forget them.
Yeah, I'm glad you did that actually, because it's so easy. I hate to say it is easy to forget them because we're always thinking about the guys on the ground.
Yeah,
but who gets us there? It's the same unit that gets all of us there.
Absolutely, yeah. And the 2-4 guys, the controllers and PJ, it's just like you're right. And the 160, it's just it was a lot of guys carried a lot of that, at least that targeting on their shoulders. And the casualty rate showed it.
Yeah. Yes. The casualty rates, which is why. It's why we asked for just assaulters from you guys. Yeah, it's because assaulters were getting shot up. Not always, killed, but we were definitely getting shot up. And, you're coming off of it. It might end your career. It's definitely going to take you off of a team for 6 months to several years, depending on the injury. And there's a lot of gold stars on the wall at the unit with years 04 to 06 next to their name.
That era was kinetic.
When you guys go back to Afghanistan, and the war in Iraq is starting to wind down. When I've always kind of wondered, when you go back to Afghanistan, was Afghanistan different? And when you go back to Afghanistan, you're like, it's just the same old over here, or things changed when you go back to Afghanistan?
Great question. Yeah, no, Afghanistan started to really get hot at that point. I mean, I don't want to say, it's all depending on everybody's personal experience, right? There might be somebody listening who's like, oh yeah, in 04, I got it on. But I'm talking broad strokes here. Yeah, because we were getting better at targeting. Our intelligence networks were getting better, with all of that. And there was more forces now in the area. And also from a JSOC standpoint, in the beginning, a lot of people don't know this, but we weren't allowed to actually go after the Taliban. JSOC wasn't. because it was not Al Qaeda, which was Bin Laden and all of that. So and I'm talking eras of like maybe like up to 05, 06. Like we weren't allowed. And I remember when they're finally like, oh no, we can finally go after the Taliban. We're like, thank God, because they were terrorized. I mean, they were full on, like it was a Taliban, almost like, counterinsurgency army. Yeah. And so when the gloves came off with the Taliban, and don't get me wrong, I'm just talking JSOC, the regular army, ODAs, all these guys were fighting the Taliban. But JSOC had a thing where like, no, we're only going after the high level guys. But then they finally took the gloves off and were like, it's on. And so when that happened and the intelligence got better, and then more units got in, and I believe when you had more units getting in there, they were developing more intelligence from more targets they're hitting.
Right.
So the momentum just started building. And I also think like Iran started supporting more of the Taliban. So there was a lot, it was a different war when you're talking about maybe 07, 08, 09 and beyond.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can see that. I want to, I really want to talk to you about the UBL raid. Mm-hmm. I mean, tease it at the beginning. If guys couldn't tell, what I said was a part of arguably the greatest high value target raid of all time. Yeah. They're really narrows it down. Yeah. When you first heard that you guys were. Did you know that was the target, or at first they're like, hey, there's just something really special going on? So how'd that start?
It's a great question. Yeah, at first they were like, hey, there's something going on, and we had thought that it was something to do with Libya at the time because that's when we were bombing Libya, and we had just gotten back from deployment, so we're like, why would they send us? We just got off leave, and but yeah, long story short, they got us in. When they finally told us who it was we were going after, especially, we'd done 10 years, both us and, the army, chasing this guy. And right. So it's like, at first, when they told us, and let me back up. When we walked in, there's some really high level people there where I was just thinking, oh, there's something going on here.
Right.
And then they briefed us on it. And I remember when they said that, I almost felt like puking just to have a human moment. Like right. What? Like the man, it's one thing to like talk about it now and look back, but I just mean, it's like, really, you think you found him? Like, and it's like, yeah, you guys are gonna go after him. And then it was like, oh, like, and I realized how lucky we were to at least be considered, because we were, one of several units from JSOC that could have gotten picked. And so, it felt almost like stomach turning, exciting, honored, all the, like a lot of emotions all at once. That year was the year, like, I get into the Tier 1 world. So, the white side wasn't getting UBL updates. Oh yeah. Sure.
Okay. As should be a shock to no one. But essentially after from Tora Bora to here, had you heard of any UBL updates or legitimate updates, or was it just he went underground and this is almost the first you're hearing of it, and he's now a target you're looking at?
Well, we had some spins. In anybody, the listeners that don't like, spinning is just like you getting spun up for a target, right? Like intelligence is saying it might be this, and it's hit or miss. You never know it's good, and it was always too good to be true. So we had some kind of spins around him. However, it was nothing crazy actionable. And so to answer your question, yes, but nothing to what when we were finally briefed on it, where it was like these high ranking people, and it was like, oh, like this is different than in the past.
Yeah. This doesn't feel like another spin. This is different.
Yeah.
Did, after getting that brief, did you, even though it was different, did you still think, like, did you guys talk like, you think we're really going to do this?
Yes.
Like,
totally.
Did you think you were really going to do it?
We're like, there's no way. There's like, yeah, this is cool, but like, there's no way. And then it's like, to be honest, we were honored and all that, but just knowing realistically, it was like, okay, we just got back from deployment. Now we have to do another workup. It was a time in our workup cycle where it's like, guys were supposed to go to schools. We had already trips planned. So guys had pulled the trips that they'd already been, planning for. So I'm not saying that like guys were grumbling, but it was almost like, oh, this better go, but
Right,
but we don't
right.
know. And
Yeah.
that's the world that, as you know, that's just kind of that world.
Yeah, I've had people joke about it. It's like, you should write a book. And I was like, you don't really want to read a book about the things I've done. The cooler book would have been the things I almost did.
Yeah, totally.
I could write a really cool book about the things we almost did.
totally.
The things we should have done.
Yeah, right. Totally.
The when they get the mock-up built, I'm sure when you're doing rehearsals on a mock-up, like it's gotta
Yes.
feel it's got to feel like it's gaining momentum.
Yes.
Like maybe, hold on,
Yes.
maybe. Like we're hitting a
It
mock-up.
was starting to get more believable.
I don't want to get too far into the actual mission, but the mock-up itself compared to when you guys went in there, how close was that mock-up to the structure?
It was impressively close considering the amount of time of like when they decided to make it and throw it up. And there, the internal structure we didn't know. And so it was mostly movement from the outside.
Okay.
Of like coordinating the helo assets, coordinating kind of like we're blocking position, like kind of the big picture stuff. And so, but we didn't know what the flow was on the inside. And, and we had to plan for things. We didn't know if he had like he was going to bunker himself in like in a safe or something like that. We suicide vest, all these contingencies. And so, but it was surprisingly accurate for the amount of time.
Yeah.
However, the chain link fence that we thought was the big wall that went around it, that was part of the reason why the helicopter ended up crashing. Because it was planning for, as the helicopter hovered, the team I was in, the helicopter I was in, was going to faster up right in the middle of the courtyard.
Right.
However, there was these tall walls around it, and it created there's a certain fancy word for it, but essentially the rotor wash helped because it was hitting the sides of the wall and not during the mock-up was the chain link fence where the wash went right
I see
through
what you
it.
mean. Yes.
Yeah,
I see what you mean.
Yeah, and because that spun it out of control, and thankfully we had a
it lost
world-class
lift
pilot that crashed it properly.
I have, even though I've talked to several guys from the mission before, I don't think I've ever asked this question. What you guys ended up doing on this mission, as far as manning, from my organization, how you guys basically went 2 ICs and up, couple 3 ICs. That kind of how the manning went,
right?
Basically, or the all-star team, if you will. We'll take the senior guys on this. When I heard you guys did that, I had mixed emotions about that.
Me too.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Because I was like, man, I don't know. You stay organic because for us and in my squadron, it's not drastically different, but each troop can has some different ideas about how things should be done. Heck, I'll tell you, we have a troop that loves white light CQB for HR.
Sure.
And we have one troop that's like, why would you ever do that?
Sure.
Blacked out, is how you should do HR. And one troop's like, well, we can move faster with white light. And it's HR, so we have to move fast. And the other troop's like, we can move just as fast under nods and you can. And it is an argument that never ends.
Yes.
But that's what I mean. You can have different tactics even within the troops. So for us, I don't believe that we would ever do that. But again, it's not a knock. I would understand. I would understand why you would do that. How do you know how that came about?
So
and has that ever happened before or since?
That had never happened before. I don't recall it happening. I don't know. In my knowledge, in my experience, I had not heard of it post. I believe it was. We were told like these are the guys going, and it was like okay. And a lot of us were like, why don't we just, to your point, just make it like a troop? I get it. There's, if my troop doesn't get picked, I'll be pissed. But like,
right,
you know what I mean? So there's kind of like that. But it's like, I don't want to say anything because I'm on the mission. Like, maybe they'll be like, okay, cool, Alex. Like,
oh my gosh.
But it was already kind of chosen for us. And I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying it was the wrong call because it worked out fine.
Right.
However,
exactly.
The thing though that made it complicated was, there's all those little organic things that are in there. Like, let's say there's a guy who's like the truck rep who like gets the vans to go drive to the range and fills them up, right? Like just the most basic stuff.
Right.
All of a sudden, I remember we had a day of that. We were going to the range or something as we were doing the workup.
Right.
And they're like, everybody was a team leader.
Right.
Or
So
a
who's gonna
2IC.
do that?
So like,
Right.
of course, I'm never grabbing the truck.
doing
I did
that.
that when I was
Yeah.
a new guy. And
Yeah.
it, like, we're looking around and being like, oh, we don't even, okay, somebody needs to, or like take the trash out, all this like silly stuff. And, or who's the team breacher or who's the,
Right.
like, and then it's
Yeah.
like everybody's team leaders. Well, who's the team leader then?
Who's a team leader of the team leaders?
The team leaders, right?
Yeah.
Because somebody has to be like, in charge, like
Right.
where somebody has to kind of be like, I understand this guy is. And so we ended up working that out of where there was essentially team leaders of team leaders
Yeah.
or 2ICs and that type of thing. But it was some growing pains. It was not my call. I'm not knocking on it because it worked out. However, it would have perhaps been, I'm surprised that happened because if we just took an internal troop and just did it, all this stuff has already been worked out of like who's in charge and all of that.
I'd because of its term, I'll tell you the term here in a second. I don't know if you guys have something similar, but I feel like you do.
I'm sure.
We would figure that out through what we call TID. So whenever there's like two team leaders and someone has to be in charge of it, like, well, who's got the most TID? Which stands for time and delta.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So
Similar. Yes.
So you could have the same position, but you can have different amounts of time and delta.
Yes, there is definitely. Maybe it's like time at DEVGRU. Maybe I just coined. I just made it. But like
it's also called TID.
TID, same thing. But see, we're so similar. But like, I think there was that. But there's also like a little caveat asterisk where if there's always like that doesn't. Sometimes if somebody is, I don't know, better, if somebody just has tenure, it's like, no, there is that little asterisk. I don't mean that like every time. That might be a one-off, but there's always that. And perhaps it's the same with you guys, I'm sure. But
when you guys start pushing forward to Afghanistan, which, you guys launched from, do you believe at this point, like, hey, we're going forward? Do you believe you're 100% doing this mission now?
No.
Still not.
I still didn't think so. I remember, I won't name his name, but one of my best buddies, we were like, there's no way. The whole time, we were saying that even as we were getting on the buses to get on the helicopters, we looked at each other, just as an inside joke, we're like, there's no way. And then I really thought that until we were on the helicopters, I was still thinking, no, because we were traveling closer to India than we were Afghanistan, of how deep it was into the country. And I just thought there's no way that President Obama is going to give the thumbs up because I didn't believe it was 100% he was there. And so just from my background in targeting, but as soon as I remember the helicopter started taxiing, and still thinking, no, this is just we're just posturing. And all of a sudden it was like, it started to like, you could tell like the engines were starting to hover and it just started taking off. And I was just like, well, I'll be damned. Okay.
I've always said this and I will always give credit where credit's due. I don't think people, because you already kind of referenced it. Sure, it's UBL, but we have had, whether it be politicians and their lack of or their risk adverseness, there's a lot of things that play into sending a Tier 1 unit into another country that's not Afghanistan or Iraq. Like you are invading a sovereign country that may or may not be your ally, and Pakistan was probably our worst ally ever in that war, in some aspects. But to send a raiding force into a country you're on good terms with,
ballsy.
It's ballsy.
That's why, and that's another reason why I was like, I don't know if it's going to happen. It's just too ballsy.
Yeah, I've always given them credit for that because credit is due.
Absolutely.
For that.
And I'll give you one more that I don't know if it's been said before, maybe it has, but I remember as we were presenting our mission and we had heard about how the Pakistanis had F-16s and how, we were worried, of course, there's anti-aircraft, all this stuff, but we were worried about that, especially on the way back. And the president asked us, well, what do we have in case they launch their F-16s to go after our helicopters? And we didn't have an answer. And I believe because we wanted to make sure the mission that was going to escalate things.
Yeah.
And the president said, what kind of airplane, what do we have? And I think it was F-15s.
Yeah.
He's like, I want to make sure we have as many F-15s. I don't care. Like if Pakistani F-16s come after our guys in Pakistan, then we're going to protect our guys. So I just kind of want to, that's maybe a little known thing, but
more credit where credit's due.
Yeah, credit where credit's due. Cause and we heard that, and I remember being like, whoa, like that is even more ballsy.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
Because again, I mean, I don't think people really realize what we're doing. Like, there is a force that invaded, another country. You don't. I mean, there's some safe assumptions of what it is, but if they want to send F-16s to push your way to at least investigate you, they have every right to do so, and probably should.
Don't blame them.
And don't blame them. And their reward for doing the right thing is to get their pilots killed and their F-16s knocked out of the sky for doing something they had every right to do just to protect you guys.
Yes.
That's a ballsy move by the president. It's the right call, but it's not as cut and dry as I think some people look at it or think when you look at like holistically.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. I don't know how many times you've probably answered this question in real life. The stealth helicopter. When did that thing show up? I was in after you for years. I've never seen one.
I had never seen one since. Maybe because one doesn't exist anymore, because we crashed one. So there's that,
right?
But well, I don't want to go too much into it. But we saw it in the first time we saw it out in out in a desert compound.
Okay, so you saw it.
We saw it and we trained with a little bit of it, and then they showed up. Yeah. They met us overseas.
Okay. So it wasn't overseas. Was
no. We actually saw it in the States and did a little bit of a workup with it.
Okay. Were you impressed with it?
Yeah. I had no idea that was even a thing. Yeah. And it was cool. I mean, it was a 60 that had been basically tricked out.
Yeah. I don't. I have a couple questions, but I want to be respectful and careful. Okay. Heck,
I'll let you know. That's all good.
You just let me know.
Yeah.
Was it designed to be, as I understand it, also be quieter? Like the blade noise, the decibels of it is to be quieter.
That's how I recall. Okay. I don't know, because a lot of it was quick and fast, and it was just, hey, here they are. Let's work up. We were really, to be honest, concerned about, how we get in, the doors, the fast, like more of like the down and in, at least where I was at. And it was like more of like, where do we store the fast reps? How do we get them? When do we put them outside of, because it's different than a standard 60. So it's like, okay, do we swing them? So we were working out kind of that, but I don't know. That's where my mind was more in that, like inside the helicopter and fast repping out.
Yeah. Because I don't think people realize how loud. I mean, I think they do realize how they may not, how loud helicopters are, because the movies will make it look like we're having a conversation on the helo. You're not having a conversation on the helo. No. Even through headsets, it's sometimes you really got to press them up against
turn down your peltor.
And really try to concentrate on what's getting put out. They're very loud. Besides just being very loud inside the helo, when I'm waiting to get picked up from target, depending on terrain and wind, you might be able to hear those helos from a long ways away. And I remember being picked up at night and kind of realizing that and be like, if someone's really listening for this, there's indicators that that we're coming for a long period of time.
Especially if there isn't like white noise, like surrounding noise, like in a city. If it's like in Afghanistan, a mountain valley where you can hear anything. Yeah, and you're right.
So to have a helicopter that has a reduction in decibels with its blades really shortens the amount of time that they know we're here, which is huge, especially on a target like this.
It was, we needed everything that we could, like stack 0.5% here, 1% there. Right. And to be honest, there's a lot of little things in there. Like weight was a big thing. Like we would always, of course, travel speedballs, right? Extra for listeners, like extra ammunition or water, food. The thing was, we couldn't do that. Yeah. And I remember even weight-wise, on our own gear, like I ended up losing a pistol, and I ended up only having like 4 mags, and I wanted way more because the thing was, we're like, okay, well, what if we can't get out in 38 minutes? They're like, well, you're going to have to Alamo up.
Yep.
And we're like, okay, well, then what? They're like, then you're either going to be a political prisoner or you're going to be dead. And it was like, okay. And you're telling me I can only have 4 magazines? Like, right. And they're like, well, we're not telling you what to do, but the thing is you have to weigh this. And it was like, oh, okay.
So kind of telling me without telling me.
Yeah, like, so I make my rounds count. Okay. Yeah. So, we had all these, so we didn't have speed, but we didn't have all this stuff. We were which was unnerving, to be honest.
Right.
And it was just kind of like, fuck it, let's just go for it. And because it was like, you can't overthink it. It's like, this is what we have to do. And, even things that, like just extra grenades, all the stuff that you would normally take, we couldn't because of weight issues. Yeah. So that there was all sorts of like little one-offs in there that was kind of concerning, especially if the big thing was if we couldn't get off target in time. And that went into our planning of how we took down the target. We were talking about a little bit last night where, you didn't want, the style of taking it down couldn't be too fast, but you wanted it to be nice and safe, almost like a hybrid, because if a guy got shot, it wasn't that he got shot like we were scared. I mean, guys got shot. It's war, right? But it was now he goes down. Now it's a time thing.
It's a time thing.
Now we have to, of course, we're going to take care of our guy. Now are we going to get out in time? And so there was all sorts of factors in there, and it really got to the point where it's just like, just go for it.
Yeah. You were in the bird that crashed in the courtyard. Mm-hmm. At what point? Because again, we have this commonality, and I love like interviewing other Tier 1 guys because I at least understand to some degree what we go through, and when you're 1 minute out, like there's that nervousness that builds before that.
Yes,
but once it goes 1 minute, it's just game time.
Total game time.
Like, there's no time to be scared anymore or nervous.
No, it's on.
It's just where is it at?
Yes.
You kind of go into autopilot.
Yes.
Right? So knowing that, and have you ever been in a helicopter crash before that?
I have, yes.
Have you really?
Yes, yeah. And it was a joke that we had in the team, and at least the helicopter I was on, where we were like, has anybody been on a helicopter crash? And like probably half the guys had. and we were like, all right, as long as nobody's been in two, because it comes in threes, I think we'll be okay. You know what I mean? And so I had on the workup for the Iraq invasion in Kuwait training, I'd crashed in a Pave Low, Pave Low,
okay.
53.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we had crashed in it. But on that, one thing that I think, I'm sorry, continue. I was about to take a different direction. On the flight in being so long, like it's an hour and a half, because it's like, oh my gosh, we're going, and it's like, and then now you're alone in your thoughts. To your point, it's so you can't hear anything in the helicopter really. I mean, maybe a random radio call, maybe, but it was just a long time to be alone in your thoughts, and it wasn't just a standard mission. It was like, okay, if we don't get out of here, okay, we're either going to Alamo up or whatever, like I mentioned. Maybe he's there, maybe he's not. And then as we're going, I remember just sitting thinking like, man, the biggest thing right now, I understand how fortunate I am to be on this mission and how our team is. And the biggest thing is I just cannot let down the American people. Yeah. Like I remember thinking to myself, envisioning people jumping out of the World Trade Center and just thinking like, this is not about me. This is payback for America. And I just cannot, I was like kind of starting to get in my own head, to be honest. And then I finally kind of snapped out of it. I just saw some like outside the window, some rocks that reminded me of Southern California, like East County, San Diego. And just thinking like, all right, cool. And just going over the reps in my head, like, okay, you know what to do. Like this is because the actual target was not that complex. We'd done harder targets, and so it was just kind of like, okay, kind of got in my head, a few deep breaths. But when the doors opened, it was just on. It was like, boom. It was like, I'm back. I know I can do this. We are going to do this. Or we're going to die doing it. But the big thing was I just, that thought, that deep feeling of just the people of New York and America in general was like, I was just like, I do not want to mess up my own little world. Right. Like at least my part. But once the doors opened, it was 100%. I knew that we were going to at least die doing it.
Man, when you explain it like that, we're similar, but we're not the same. I've had some important to me missions.
Sure.
But I don't know if I've ever been in a helicopter with with the feeling of like America's depending on me right now.
Well,
And you're absolutely right. Like that, America didn't know it at the time, which is even crazier.
Yeah.
America so desperately wanted this and needed this, and they had no idea the boys were doing something about it right now. They're about to find, if you guys do it right,
yes,
they're about to find out about it.
Yes, and or if we do it wrong, and that we're going to find out.
Find out either way.
And the thing was, man. And it didn't fall short on me too. Like I know I've said it, but I really mean it. Like there was other squadrons that could have been picked to do it that would have done just as good or better job, and I knew that.
Yeah.
And so it was like there was a weight of that too, of like, do not mess up this opportunity. There's, you know what I mean. And then it was like kind of spinning in my head, but it was just once I like was able to kind of like just get my shit together a little bit in my own head,
right?
Like take a few deep breaths, just kind of like go over in my head, just rehearse. Okay, your role is X, Y, and Z. All right, doors open and it's on.
What when doors open? What is there anything you remember about that night? It was cold. It was windy. It was dark. Is there anything specific that you remember about that?
I remember when the doors
Heart
opened.
Racing.
Heart was racing. The temperature, if I recall, it was like springtime. It wasn't anything crazy. I had a long sleeve cami top on, and it was comfortable. But I remember seeing the town. Just whatever standard town below you.
Yep.
And then I remember even kind of looking out and seeing the compound and just being like, okay. And then when we hovered, like I was on the door that was facing the actual compound. There was a sniper there that was basically Overwatch.
Right.
One of the guys, I was holding on the back of his kit as he was throwing the rope, standard stuff.
Yeah.
He was throwing the rope and he was going to throw it and follow it. And I was going to go right after him.
Okay.
And I remember I was holding on him. We were coming in and it's like, boom, we were right there in front of the compound.
Yeah.
And then the whole world started just spun violently, just like, and we just nose dove into, thankfully we had a world-class pilot that was able to, on the particular pilot or the helicopter, it almost was like a beak of a bird.
Okay.
He was able to take that and drive it into the earth, which actually stabilized it because the helicopter was on, it was like part of it was on this wall, this tall wall where, and it started kind of rotating a little bit. And, I just immediately from training, it's like, don't jump out just yet because it was swaying back and forth. Like your head's going to get lopped off.
Yeah.
And I remember I was still holding on to my buddy, like holding on to him after we impacted. At the time, I didn't realize that I had a couple herniated discs in my back, but so did a lot of guys from that. But my adrenaline was going. I had no idea. But I'm holding on to him, and there's a moment I'm looking over my shoulder because I'm just want to see because I was a team leader, wanted to make sure everybody was good, or at least like where they were. Did somebody get thrown?
Right.
And I remember I just lightly let up on the back of his kit, and he just went and just hopped out. And he was this big dude. He could have been like the size of like an NFL linebacker type guy. And I remember just being like, oh my God. Like I felt like, did I let go of him? And did I fuck? And I just looked.
Right.
And I remember seeing him running and he's this big guy. And I'm like, his head's going to get lopped off.
Yeah.
And then he just ran right through it. And I was like, well, shit. Like I can't leave him. And I'm like,
go.
now I'm going.
That's right.
And I'm like, whatever, here we go.
Here we go.
And then and I remember when that happened, I never looked back at the helicopter. I remember reflecting on that later, like, man, I never even looked back to see where the guys were and how they were doing. And it was the mindset that we had that it was different. This mission was different. It was all about getting the guy. Like we will all die doing it. And right now, like even the moment of looking back to make sure everybody's cool, it doesn't matter, right? Because if there are guys scattered all over the place or not, we're going to go.
Yeah.
And so I remember just following him. My role as a team leader was to take my team right up the middle. Okay. And I remember I knew that we were worried that there was going to be suicide. There wasn't, thank God. But with that type of, as you know, you get higher up, and it doesn't even have to be higher up, like bad guys. But like we thought likely that could happen, or houseborne IED. Mm-hmm. And I remember thinking, as the team leader, I'm going to be the first one in there. Because if anybody dies, it's going to be me. Yeah. And that's not just to make sure people know. That's not like just me, Alex West. That is just like most like JSOC type. Like guys are like, especially something like that. Yeah. Like if anybody's going to do it, I'm going to lead. And and then ran right up the middle. And
did you guys go straight to the main compound?
Yes.
No, there were kind of adjacent compounds within the overall, or adjacent buildings within the overall compound. You guys go straight to the 3-story building.
Yes.
Did you guys lead with a explosive charge on the
It was
first
open.
floor there?
The door was open. It was a back door, and we knew through intelligence that the door would be open. And so I went,
Just
went in
letting
there.
the breeze in?
I guess.
Okay.
That's a great question. I'm surprised. And I still at that point did not know that it would be, it was the guy. I still was not 100%.
Right.
And so, we get in there, we end up taking care of one of the couriers and we're in there. And I remember at that point, so now I'm like kind of leading the other team had landed outside.
Yep.
They were originally supposed to land on the roof, but contingency was if one of the helos goes down, the other one just buys down risk and just lands.
Okay.
And so that's what they were doing that. And those guys were now making their way around to support us, but I was coordinating because there was a steel door going up the stairs. And when I saw that
from the first floor to the second floor,
yeah. And that's when our breacher was like, okay, throw the charge on. So we're getting the charge on, and we're putting a big one on because it was a heavy duty door, but it was on. And we kind of were not worried about what was behind. We wanted people to feel it. And so,
right, yeah.
And we had just crashed in a helicopter.
America.
We had 30 something minutes. And oh, by the way, we probably won't get out now because we just crashed a helicopter. So we're going to make you pay. And so, I'm coordinating like, hey, back off, that standard stuff. But I remember looking at it, and there was a moment where the guy threw the charge on, and I kind of get out of the way of it, and I'm starting to make the call.
Okay.
Like, hey, like basically like send it. And as he was getting ready to send it, there was a moment I was like, holy we just crashed and we're not going to get out of here on time. And we are going to Alamo up because there's no,
I got 4 mags.
I got 4 mags. And I was like kicking myself. I'm like, nobody would have known if you would have snuck a couple extra. Like, let's be real. And I'm like, I knew I should have taken a couple extra. But there was a moment, but then it was kind of contemplation. And I'm like, you know what? I'm back in it. And it's just like, okay, boom, the charge goes. And then it's just like, and then, from there, the rest of the guys came in. At that time, there was also another element that was taking down some other buildings. One of the guys had, they got in a little gunfight, got shot in his bolt cutters, and Frag just trapped just a little bit. Okay. Then kind of from there, the team went in, took out his son, took out the man. Right. And then from there, there's a lot of accounts of what happened. I wasn't in that room. That's not for me to really say, but I do know from me, what I know is like when I got up there, we had this treasure trove of SSE. We were worried about IDing the guy and our UBL, making sure we got him. And I remember when it came over the radio that we actually had him, and it was like, whoa, okay, whatever. We're back to SSE, because it's like it's still on. It's like a moment to be like, wow, that's a lot. I can't believe he's actually here. That's cool. Okay, SSE, we're still not going to get out of here, type thing. And but then I remember. Unbeknownst to us, our QRF launched, and which was ballsy. Straight up 47s are like, we're not gonna let you guys Alamo up. And so another squadron from our command came in and just was like, with TF-160 just burning to come get us. And so as we're worried about, as they do. And as that was happening, we were now putting charges on the helicopter because we wanted to blow that thing, and there was just a lot going on in a short amount of time. And finally, I remember my master chief was like, okay, he named, you guys are going to get off. Basically, my team, you're going to get off on the first helo. And I remember coming on the radio and being like, yeah, but there's so much stuff here we need to be grabbing. Right. And he came back and was like, well, cool, you can just stay here. And I was like, oh, good one. I'm like, roger that. I'm running out. Cool. So there's even like a little joke, if you will, in the middle of all that madness. And so,
the master bedroom's open.
Yeah, totally. He's like, cool story, Alex. All right, whatever. You're you're either going to get on actually, we could probably save some weight if you just stayed here.
We're back to weight.
Yeah, we're back to, so, then we got out, we took the body, and I remember laying on his body, and because we were just crammed in the helicopter, and just getting his elbow in my side, and just being covered in computer, laptop, all this stuff. Yeah. And then we finally took off, and then the other guys got extracted as well. And then as we're flying back, we're thinking like, oh, cool. Like I can't believe we're pulling this out. It's still not over because we're still worried about the F-16s, all this stuff. And then I remember we had a FARP, or a forward area refueling point.
Nice.
No big deal. Still got it in the steel. Why do I remember that? I mean, I wish I could just data dump that and like have useful information.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
of course, that'll stick.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that'll stick for some reason. But we had so like basically for listeners who don't know, just a fuel point and is a field in the middle of nowhere in Pakistan that we could refuel in because we didn't have enough fuel to make it back. And so as we're flying towards it, I remember just thinking like, okay, we're getting close, and the pilots are kind of giving us, or the crew is telling us like how many minutes out, and then all of a sudden lights start flashing in the cockpit, and then and then it comes back like we're going to run out of fuel, and so brace yourself, and I was thinking to myself, oh, it is going to come in threes. We are going to get this third helicopter crash. Thankfully, obviously we didn't, and we got to the fueling point, fueled up. Flew back, and I do recall at one point I got on the 47, and when we passed into Afghanistan, the pilot came over the radio and just said, hey boys, we're back in Afghanistan. I bet you never thought you'd be so excited to be back here. And we were all like, fuck yeah, and that was kind of it.
And that's when it hit you.
And then when we flew back to Bagram and we're turning over all of our stuff, and I remember when it really hit was, we were still in our camis and, SSC turnover, all the just standard post-op stuff, debrief. And there was a TV that came on, and the president came on. And I remember him like with his like swagger, like walking down and just saying, I'm paraphrasing, America pulled off this operation. And at that moment, that's when it really hit, where it's like, I can't believe we pulled that off. Like, we are lucky.
That's so crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, what a career. I mean, really.
Thanks, man.
What a career. Some would say that you were lucky, but people who are lucky is when preparation meets opportunity.
Yeah.
And you had opportunities throughout your career that you were prepared for.
Yeah.
And that's what put you in those positions.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
And that's I'm telling you. And if someone's like, you jealous that those guys got that mission? Yes.
Yeah.
Why would?
Yeah. Why would? Yeah.
How could you not be? I'm jealous that I was out when they got Maduro.
I am too.
You're always jealous anytime someone else does
I'm the
something.
same way. When I saw that with Maduro, I was like, man, I wanted to be on that. And I'm like a space cowboy. I'm out. Like, what are they going to use me for these days?
I got jealous when another troop in my own squadron did a cool mission in a country out, in a rotation. Like,
that's the mentality.
That's the mentality. You always, and that needs to be the mentality.
Yes,
right.
I agree.
But you guys got it, and as you know, it's. As a self-appointed representative from the Delta Force, we couldn't have been any, partially jealous, and also couldn't have been any more proud of you guys.
I appreciate you saying
for doing that. And, and America, man, you want to talk about from the weight of a nation that kind of transfers over to like just how grateful the nation was. And just, I don't know, my last point is I feel like that night that you guys did that mission, America came together again, and what might be for the last time since then.
I think you might be right. I remember that well, and just feeling so proud, not just being America, but to see America be proud.
Yes,
not just like me feel it, but to observe America being proud. I believe there's more to come. I hope. Maybe I'm overly optimistic, but hopefully soon.
Did you guys ever get a brief on all the information you guys pulled off target? You guys pulled a ton of information off target. Did you ever get? I'm sure it took them. Who knows how long it took them to go through all that? Did you guys ever get briefed up and be like, "Hey, this is what we got from that"?
That's a great question. Not really. I got a little tidbit here and there, but mostly, most of the stuff I saw was what was being released in the open source. So, it'd be like, you'd be like porn or this or that. I'm like, really? We risked our lives for a porn hard drive. Okay. But it was the number one guy's porn hard drive. And it's like, okay, glad we, there's like a little bit of, but there was so much that I believe that it just took them a really long time. And to be honest, I think that at that point there was no reason for us to know unless we needed to know. And I don't recall, other than maybe I heard a little tidbit here or there, but it was never like an official sit down. This was what was found, at least in my experience.
When you guys get back from the mission, do you feel like there was any professional jealousy from other squadrons for any reason?
No.
Was everything pretty kosher? Or that's a lot, to deal with. It is.
Yeah.
It's a lot to deal with.
There was not. No, I remember.
'Cause I'm sure, not to cut you off, but and because I want to just make sure like everyone understands like what I mean by that question.
Yeah.
That there was a squadron in Afghanistan.
Oh, yeah.
that rightfully so feels like they should have got that mission.
And I agree. By the way,
there's the younger guys that not just younger, middle management within the squadron that feel like you guys shouldn't have done that. Was just, sometimes when there's success, there are some, side effects of success. And was there any of that?
I'm sure there was, but I recall it being positive. And I recall I got a lot of, kind compliments from, not compliment, but just like, we got them. Like, like we're proud. I mean, of course, all those guys, I think it's the same thing they'd followed up with. If our squadron did it, we wouldn't have crashed a helicopter. If our
of course, that's coming down.
Of course, and I would have said the exact same thing. So let's be real, but probably, But so there was obviously a little banter, a little funny stuff going. But I remember as a unit, we were obviously proud. We were proud of what we had done, and in that year, though, what would come later, not to jump ahead with Extortion, a lot of that was short lived. To be honest, because just a few months later that would happen.
Yeah, that I do want to talk about that. In fact, let's jump right into it because you want to talk about the contrasting of what you guys went through.
Yeah,
as far as you guys went through the highest of highs.
Yes,
to something that I'm sure you are, and I hope that is something you'll be proud of the rest of your life and look back and be like, that's crazy.
Thanks, man.
I haven't told you this. It's when we were in the garage smoking last night, telling stories, like to some level, I'm like, man, this guy was on the UBL raid. He's in my garage smoking cigars. I mean, just such a small world. It's crazy. But like I said, then it ends up being short lived because what is arguably the greatest high value target raid ever in special operations history, just months later ends up being one of the greatest tragedies in Tier 1, if not special operations history, where you guys lose a whole troop. In Extortion.
Horrible. Yeah.
I don't. And I told you that last night. It was like, every unit's had bad days.
Of course.
But I can't fathom losing a whole troop. Just gone.
Yeah, and it was, especially as like in those units, guys homestead there, so they're there year after year after year and become very close, obviously with each other. And I had actually been into troop on their previous rotation because I was a green team. I was a selection instructor, and one of my best friends, Rob Reeves, was in Gold Squadron 2 troop, and we're like, man, one of these days let's try to get on ops together. And so I was able to work my way over there and deployed with him for a little bit, came back, Bin Laden raid happened. And then a few months later, for people who don't know, Extortion 17 was a call sign of a 47 that was shot down with a Gold Squadron 2 troop in it as they were providing a QRF operation. And it was the largest loss of life in the Afghan war, certainly in special operations. I'm not sure historically, but I mean like in the history of American special, but certainly in the GWAT.
Right.
And that was earth shattering. I mean, you go through your phone and you have dozens, 12, 20 plus numbers in there that one moment they're just no longer alive. And for us, we were so impacted as a command by it. And the command was able to professionally make sure they'd CACO or like casualty officers and support families and all of that. But for us, we were on standby, meaning when we had to blow out to go backfill them, right? So it was, we were going to some funerals of some of your best friends and having friends, some of those friends and their wills are requesting you to be a pallbearer. And you can't do it because you have to go overseas. And so, we blew out there to help cover down from that, but it's still felt in the community, especially a development group, especially the guys from that era. That is something that I believe will never go away. And part of the reason I had my own struggles, not to get too far ahead, and from all of my deployments, but specifically that, and which ended up leading to me becoming a therapist because I saw the darkness and started to pull myself out and saw our community struggling like that and being like, I want to try to do something, but not to get ahead with the therapy thing, but the extortion was rough.
No, well, I really want to bring up extortion because, and I'm going to put all their names on the screen because I don't. It's important to talk about it because I don't ever want them to be forgotten.
I love that.
And it's a perfect segue into you being a mental health therapist, because I've said it on the podcast before. There are times that I'm not an advocate for therapists for one reason or another, but usually like the one reason is normally like usually when you go to a therapist for guys like us in the military, and usually when like PTSD related. How was someone who has no idea what you've gone through going to help you with it?
Yes.
There's no way they can relate
Right.
to some of the things that men have gone through in war, and so I personally have a little bit of an issue with that. But that's
I get it. I understand.
but when I heard that you did that, I was like, that actually solves one of my problems with therapy.
Sure,
right? You absolutely should be doing that, and veterans should go to you among whoever else needs to. But we need more combat veterans that are therapists.
I agree.
Who better?
I agree. There's been times where in the therapy space where a veteran is struggling with something and they might talk about losing a friend. And I will say it is I feel fortunate where I can be like, yeah, man, me too.
Yeah.
I know what that's like. Or, maybe there's like, I killed somebody and I'm struggling with it. It's like, me too.
Yeah.
And it's, and that allows it to just kind of level it and just to be like, just meet them where they're at. It doesn't even have to be some cool therapeutic technique. It's just a human thing of just like, bro, I get it. And okay, like you want to talk about it. If you don't want to, that's fine. Okay. Let's get you involved in some kind of a program, like One More Wave or those fishing programs, whatever it is. It's like, okay, there's a couple ways we can go about this. And I feel that has kind of been, that wasn't I guess it was kind of my intent because I felt the same way you did of maybe some therapists didn't know where I was coming from. Right. Because they didn't know kind of the stuff we were talking about last night, but they don't know what that's like. But I find having experienced some of, not everything that everybody's experienced, but my experiences have helped me realize of like what it's like and why I'm involved in whether it's mental health, not just a therapist, but in nonprofits and an ambassador for Americans for iBegin, just different things. Cause it's my passion. Cause whenever, from our communities, not just the Tier 1 communities, but the greater SOF, greater military of just the suicide epidemic that's going on. I just feel that that's almost like my new battle. And tackling it like a Tier 1 operator, not just like some therapist that went to grad school and they're 26 years old. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to ask, but I already know the answer to this. Does anyone that, any of your patients, do any of them know that you're a SEAL Team 6 operator on the UBL raid?
I don't. I think maybe one or two, but not most of them don't know. One or two because they like ChatGPT'd me, and then they'll tell me like I don't tell them. They'll be like, I just found out something new about you, and I'm like, or did you see me out in town? Like, what's going on? They're like, I ChatGPT'd you. I'm like, oh, What did it say?
That has to be crazy.
It is
when
crazy.
you
I
find
never
that
tell
out
them
about your therapist.
Yeah, I never tell them. I never tell them anything. I don't even tell
I already knew you did.
Yeah. No, I don't tell them any of that.
Which is why I'm sending you a poster that says it. And I'm going to ask you to hang it up in your office.
About time. I've been waiting for that. Yeah. Finally, somebody sees me.
The other thing you do that's really cool that I want to talk about, and that's the nonprofit that you founded, One More Wave.
One More Wave.
Tell us about that.
Oh, I'd love to. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. Yeah. So
Yeah.
One More Wave.
You earned it.
One More Wave is a nonprofit, a veteran surf nonprofit where we take customized surfboards and we customize them to wounded or injured veterans, customize their injuries. Now, it's not just, let's say, amputees, which it is often, single, double, triple, burn victims, spinal cord injuries, all the above, but a lot of mental health. And so the boards don't have to be they're standard surfboards. However, we, with those boards, we do graphic art, custom graphic art in it. So guys can put in their unit logos. They can put in pictures of their family. They can make it a nice classic surfboard, whatever it is they want. We do that. And we also have chapters around the country. We have 8 of them from Oahu in Hawaii, California, San Diego, Florida, North Carolina, New York, all of these places. And every third Saturday, we do a surf where roughly 300 or 400 people will get together, depending on the time of the year. Maybe in the winter, it's not as many people. But right now in the spring, summer, it really adds up. And yeah, we get together with community and surf. And I'm surprised when I started Not One More Wave back in 2015, I was still active duty.
Okay.
And I really thought it was just going to be like, lots of times people are like, oh my gosh, you had this vision to have this, we've helped X amount of people and all of this and that. Like, did you have that vision? Then I'm like, no, I didn't have that vision at all. I was just like, all right, I'm going to do something. I wanted to at least do like a couple boards for the Naval Hospital who had some amputees. And then before we knew it, it gained a little bit of traction. Starbucks did a documentary on us, and then the rest is kind of history in a way where we were able to make a lot of impact. And, right now we've done more adaptive surfboards than anywhere in the world. I took that mindset from the units we were at of just innovation and research development and got around some very talented surfboard shapers. And I'm really proud of that. And I'm really proud of our team, our followers that have followed us from the beginning, donors, all the above, our board of directors.
I really like the other thing that you guys do. It's not just a surfboard for the adaptive people. You also cater to them with a wetsuit as well.
Thank you
I was like, man, that's really cool. Like, you've thought of everything.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah. For that reminder. Yeah. So it's when a veteran gets a grant, they get a surfboard and then they get a wetsuit, to your point. But what I hated seeing in the beginning, I would see a lot of these amputees and they would take a wetsuit and they would, let's say they're missing their leg below the knee, for example. They might overhand knot the wetsuit leg and then they would, cut it with scissors. And I was just like,
janky.
I'm like,
not
no,
on my watch.
I'm like, not on my watch. Like, no, this is not cool. Like, I don't want that. So we tracked down a wetsuit tailor. Yeah. And we started working with her of just innovating like different ways. Cause you can't just like sew it. You have to put a drainage in there. And we were exploring different stuff. And from there we were able to get like solid custom fit wetsuits, especially for the amputees, or if it's able-bodied people, it's a nice wetsuit. And then all the little stuff like board bags and extra fins and little things like that all come within the grant.
How many surfboards do you think you guys have given out?
750.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and each grant's about $2,500. So
that's awesome.
And as I was saying last night, people are like, "Yeah, you must have envisioned this." I'm like, no. And I started it from a How to Start a Nonprofit for Dummies book. You know what I mean? So it's not like I was like some sort of like crazy entrepreneur. It was like, I don't know what to do. Like, I'm gonna get a Nonprofit for Dummies book. Okay, I don't know anybody outside of the military industrial complex. And just thankfully, I had a lot of people support me and mentor me, and it was just it kind of fell into that it's better to be lucky than good type thing. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I'd say I especially after talking to you last night, I love what you're doing so much on that aspect to it. In fact, I told you I love military history. We even talked about there's some history in this with China Beach and Vietnam of some R&R of the guys going and surfing.
Absolutely.
To just kind of have a release, forget about the worries of the world for a little bit. Just have some serenity. Go do something.
Yes. Absolutely. I'm so glad you brought that up. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, No. It's,
Yeah, with the China Beach thing, I was really inspired by that too. For those people who don't know, China Beach was like an R&R location for active duty members in Vietnam. And they would just basically go to this nice beach and they would hang out. I think they would give them food and beers, whatever, and just like relax, get them out of the jungle and just relax that nervous system.
Yeah.
And some guys started smuggling over surfboards, probably like some damn Californians or something, or, whoever, just guys were getting surfboards over there. And then they were using that as like, not just outdoor, exercise and all that, but almost therapeutically. And I believe from a clinical standpoint, what is important about surfing or any kind of flow state type of endeavor. So it could be like strumming a guitar, surfing, mountain bike, whatever it is for that person. It's for our nervous system. Essentially, it takes us out of the sympathetics where we're like ramped up, and it really it gives that nervous system a break when we're in a state of flow. So when you're catching a wave for like, let's say 10 seconds, your nervous system is just like relaxed. And if you can catch 10 waves, that's 100 seconds, right? Wow. And so it just kind of like relaxes that a little bit. Clinically, that's what I believe is going on, but also you're exercising, so that feels good. You're getting endorphins from that. You're getting vitamin D from the sun. You're getting around, if you're with other guys doing it too, you're cheering each other on or talking shit if you didn't make a wave, whatever it is, there's like camaraderie and connection.
Right.
So I would encourage, especially any veterans, it doesn't have to be surfing. Obviously that's the thing that I'm into, but anything that can get you in that flow state, I think is important.
And you've, with the different groups that meet up, you've created a community.
Yes.
A community is really important.
Absolutely.
So when Joe doesn't make it this week, and he said he was going to, outside of this, no one was going to check on Joe.
Yes.
But now we need to go check on Joe because he's not here. Okay, we found out just life is real heavy right now.
Sure.
You're busy, whatever.
Yeah.
You'll be there next week though, and we'll come visit you tonight for dinner.
Yeah.
Like it gives people a reason to check up on people, to have a community, to be connected.
I love that. Yeah, you're right. And that is so important. I think especially for if there's any veterans listening to this now, of just that connection, whether you're that person isolating or your friends are doing that, just to that, where it's like, to the Joe example, where it's like Joe will know that, Alex is going to text him if he doesn't see him, or Brent's going to give him a call or whatever, guilt trip, and it's like, and maybe you're just, to your point, maybe it's just life got busy, whatever. It's like, okay, but or maybe there's a day where you're isolating and you're like, I better go because fucking Brent's going to call me. And then, and it's like, okay, maybe it's just that little nudge that is what it's going to take to get out and be social, because that's the biggest thing that veterans struggle with, in my opinion, is they start isolating because they're out of that unit, they're out of that squad, whatever it is. And they're no longer have meaning and purpose, and now they're stuck on their couch, and you're in your own mind.
And I'm certain that we've both done this. I've done the same thing. I don't want to go. I don't want to be social. And then for whatever reason, I'm forced to go. And then I go out there and then I feel bad. I'm like, I'm having a great time. Why did I do this? why did I not want to? I even show up in a bad attitude a little bit. I'm trying to hide.
I've been there. Yeah.
By the time I'm leaving, like, I'm really glad I went and did this.
It's like going to the gym, right? Like days you don't feel like going to the gym, you're like, oh my gosh, it's going to be a half-ass workout. I know it's like, just go. And even if it is kind of a half-ass workout, no matter what, you'll always feel better leaving. You're right, like the gym, like I at least did it. It's same thing with surfing. It's like you always, even if the conditions are bad, even if the conditions are perfect, but you mess up every way, whatever it is, I've always felt better coming out of the ocean than when I went in, especially when it's with a community. And that to that point of like the community is huge.
Well, we're trying to build a community here as well. It's called the Tier 1 podcast, but there's only a handful of Tier 1 guys to interview, which is why I'm so glad you came on the show.
The invite.
But the Tier 1 isn't about me or you. It's about being a Tier 1 person, a Tier 1 friend, a Tier 1 husband, a Tier 1 worker, a Tier 1 boss. Just being Tier 1 different aspects of your life. And we as a community want to be a part of your community. And we are going to buy a surfboard and wetsuit for a veteran in need.
Awesome,
with one request. Can we get the logo put on it?
Oh yeah,
can we?
Of course. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, of course.
Not necessary, but if it's doable.
Oh yeah.
There's a spot for it. We'd love to sponsor a surfboard and help out a veteran.
Thank you. That's huge. I mean, that will impact a veteran's life undoubtedly. I can't thank you guys enough.
Absolutely. It's towards the end. The floor is yours. Is there anything else that you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, there's a couple small things.
Yeah, what do you got?
I would like this opportunity just to speak to like any veterans out there that might be struggling. I just want you to know that, you know, it's okay to reach out for help. I'm not saying that you always have to, but you know, as somebody who maybe didn't in the beginning reach out, I'm glad that I did, because there is help out there. You can be both a tier 1 operator or, you know, and at the same time reach out and get help if you need it. Because our communities struggle with a lot of these things, post of all of the stuff that we've done. And you don't have to come from a tier 1 unit. It could be, you know, you could have been in the military or even not in the military. Anybody who's listening, it's just help is out there. It's okay. You can be a man and get help. And by doing so, you're going to be, to the point of what you just mentioned, a better dad, a better husband, a better friend. And not just that, but you just deserve it, right? Like you deserve it. And then one other aspect I wanted to just talk about. That's it. Just normalizing mental health. I just feel like I'm not going to go on some crazy therapist talk about it, but it's just, you know what I mean? But I just want to just say, like, it's, you know, you can be both. You can be a tier 1 guy and you can also get help.
I agree with that because even when we were in the teams, we needed help.
Yeah.
But I got help from physical therapists.
Yeah.
I got help from our law guys. There's nothing you can do at a high level and do by yourself.
Yeah.
Last thing that everybody gets, and that is in this thing with a funny story for me.
Oh man. Okay. Ooh, funny story. Okay.
Well, Alex, before you start that, Brent, if it's okay,
Yeah.
I think there's a small part of your story that's missing that our listeners, if you know, you know, and they want to know, Alex. They want to know your piss bottle story. Did you have a piss bottle on the helicopter that evening? And did you use it? What happened to it?
That's a great question. It might be the most important question I've been asked all day.
And I don't know, did the weight limit allow you to have it?
No, they did. And I would have smuggled it on no matter what. I mean, it was an 1.5 hour long flight. Of course I did.
Right.
And I'm going to let you know it was a Gatorade bottle, because everybody knows water bottles. Nobody's got time for that. You know what I mean? You'd have that Gatorade bottle. And yes, I used it. And thankfully I did. And it might still be in Pakistan. I don't know. So you're welcome, Pakistan.
well, that might double as your funny story, actually. You might be off the hook after that answer.
Right on.
The old twofer.
Yeah, those Gatorade bottles, they got the larger opening.
That's
Definitely
That's the pro
definitely
move.
more
That's the
convenient.
pro move. You
That's
have more
right.
room to
Yeah,
work
that's a
with.
pro move.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking tier 1 stuff here. You got to be like even tier 1 with your piss
Exactly.
bottle. You know what I mean?
Yeah, act like you've been there before.
Yeah, exactly.
Could you imagine the fact that he picks that up?
Totally. Be like, what is this? This guy needs to hydrate.
Flavored Gatorade.
This Navy SEALs never hydrate. Yes.
Oh gosh, you know it did happen. There was an aerial resupply. I want to say it was in Afghanistan. It got blown off target, and it had C4 on it. Like the bricks of C4 and the green plastic.
Oh yeah.
The Afghans got there and thought it was like some sort of candy and started eating it. And actually, by the time we realized, I either got really sick or maybe died from it. But yeah,
I'm sure it's toxic.
It can't be good. Sure. It can't be good. No. Yeah. So it wouldn't be the first time they've seen something strange and gave it a whirl.
Totally.
Yeah, that's crazy. Anyway, Alex, thank you so much for coming on.
My pleasure, man.
And it's to the garage for cigars.
Looking forward to it.
Thanks, guys.